Hello to the Nomadbase Startup Days. We're super excited to see you here. A lot of people are arriving now, so just please let us know in the chat where you're from. We would love to hear from what beautiful part of the world you're joining us today. We're already seeing people here from Brazil, from Germany, Peru. Let us know from where you're joining. That would be awesome, and we're looking forward to a super exciting day today. We will talk about a lot of things and skills that nomads need in order to run their business while they're traveling. We're not really going to be talking about traveling itself, but we will talk about the entrepreneurship, the mindset, the habits that we need, all these important things that we all need in order to live this lifestyle. And if you're joining us here, if you're around, we want to invite you to be here with us today for the next 4 hours. There's a lot of value inside these talks that we'll be sharing with you today. And make notes, take a notebook, let us know, take part in the chat. It's really, talk to each other, let us know how things are going. And then we really hope that you enjoy this conference. So with me here today is also Dory. Dory is going to be the co-host of this day. Hello, Dory. From what beautiful part of the world are you joining us?
Hey, Johannes, and hey, guys. I'm joining from Lisbon, from my favorite co-working currently in Avila Spaces. Yes. And I'm really excited for this. To be honest, this is, first of all, I would like to thank, for all of you who are joining and for the speakers who are slowly arriving. Personally, I'm really happy to see that more and more people are interested in the nomad lifestyle and entrepreneurship. Being a nomad and an entrepreneur myself, I know that it's a great lifestyle, but it comes with a lot of challenges, and that's why I think these events are super important. And today, as Johannes already mentioned, we're gonna talk about some of the challenges that can come, especially in the beginning and throughout your whole journey, like the mindset blocks, negotiation. So this, I think it's important because these can make the difference if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur and a nomad or not. So I'm super excited and I'm happy to be here.
And talking about challenges, this will be one part of our first talk because Mariza, who is joining us, from where are you joining us today?
São Paulo, Brazil.
That's awesome. So Mariza had the same challenge like all of us when the Corona crisis happened, and she turned this challenge into a great opportunity. And she has shared this talk already in Bansko at the Nomad Fest. I've heard many people talking about it, so I'm super excited that Mariza will be sharing her story on how she built a great business within 6 months. She will share this story today, and we are super excited that you're going to make the introduction talk here today. And again, please, everyone here in the chat, let us know from where you're joining. Let us know if you have any questions. There will be a Q&A session at the end of this session, at the end of the talk. And Mariza, now the stage is yours. Welcome, and so great to see you here today.
Thank you so much. Let's get started. Can you see my slides? Hello?
Yes, we can see everything. You can turn on the full screen, and now I'm going to remove myself. So it's all yours, okay? Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. Thanks, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Mariza Monteiro, and I'm honored to kick off the Nomad Startup Days conference today and tomorrow. I am the CBDO and COO of Divine Saunas. And we're going to talk about how I built a 7-figure e-commerce business during a global crisis. Let's dive right in. First, a little bit about me. I have 20-ish years experience in finance and investments. My background is also finance, and I have an MBA. All the credentials, international business consulting and sales strategies are my strength. I left corporate in 2011, so about 10 years ago, and I've been location independent / digital nomad since 2015. I founded a podcast company called Personality Pods, a Spanish visa business, and also an educational platform called She Knows Crypto. if you have a look at this and think about my talk, I have no prior experience prior to 2020 in e-commerce or specifically in online marketing. So what we're going to cover today is the key factors that led to this 7-figure growth in 2020. I'm sure you can guess at least one of them is the pandemic, but that was not the only factor. We'll talk about our specific e-commerce business model, and then dive into a case study of Divine Saunas in 2020, talking about the revenue, the different challenges, and the different opportunities that came throughout the year, and then some key learnings that you can apply to your business and actually your life, and a brief Q&A if we have time, hopefully. So this is Divine Saunas. This is our homepage. It's divinesaunas.com. It was founded by Jaakko Multanen in 2019, launched in actually June of 2019. And I joined on a little bit towards the end, a couple months before the pandemic. What do we sell? We sell saunas. It's called Divine Saunas. We also sell hot tubs and outdoor showers. So these are essentially very large outdoor structures, traditional finished dry saunas that people can put in their backyard. They can put in a spa or a gym. They're basically between 8x6 to 8x8. So they are quite large in different shapes and different sizes. When I joined on in late 2019, we sold about a couple a month. I didn't see it as a really big trend in the US, as most Americans aren't really sure what a sauna is. So it was a little bit slow going in the beginning, and I thought kind of, something easy to learn for my first crack at managing an e-commerce business and getting more into online marketing. So what is our business model? Going to keep it very simple here. These are the main tenets. So we are e-commerce. We're a direct retailer and in a transactional model versus a subscription. I'd love to send somebody a sauna of the month club type of thing, but nobody's buying a sauna from us every single month. So it's transactional, mostly one product per customer. Drop shipping, so it's manufactured in Canada and shipped directly from the manufacturer to the customer in the US, mostly in the US. We sell a couple in Canada also, but basically our customers are in the continental US. We have a 25 to 40% dealer discount. So that equals what our gross margin is on all of the products, without including the transaction costs from Stripe or Visa. The average sale has been consistently around $10,000 per sauna. Occasionally there are some combos. People also buy hot tubs, but the average sale is about $10,000. Our niche is actually an overlap of 3 niches. And it's a very, very sweet spot for this last year. It's luxury, so this means high ticket items. It's health, because saunas in particular are part of a healthy regimen that you can do for yourself in your home. So home improvement is another big niche. These 3 were very, very large last year, and we hit all of them. What is our marketing plan? Super, super basic. We do pay per click, mainly on Google Ads, and a super basic funnel. And when I say super basic, Google ad goes to a specific product page, and the call to action is the shopping cart or the phone call. And that usually converts into a sale, either immediately online without any assistance, or they give us a call and a sauna specialist will talk them through the different options and be able to convert quickly. So we don't really focus on so much social media or pay-per-click ads on Facebook or Instagram, not nurturing sequences for emails, all of those things. It's basically PPC, direct to buy. That resulted in sales last year of a little over 1.6 million. So we basically started out with a couple thousand in 2019, and then I'll walk through how we got to this figure last year. So when I walk through the case study, I want you guys to think about 3 things. These are actually the keys that helped guide, it says keys to prosperity, but helped guide my decisions very strategically along the way. First of all, know your audience. Who are you selling to? We all want to sell to everybody, but what is your niche? Who's your demographic? What do they want to hear, and how does your product best appeal to them? Know your business, obviously, but specifically for doing a basic SWOT analysis. What's your business strengths? We have a really, really strong website, looks better than anything out there. What are the weaknesses? We may not cover all of the bases with different types of marketing and all the different channels that there are for marketing. What are the opportunities? A lot of it was the pandemic. Everybody's stuck at home. What are the threats? A huge spike in demand. So those briefly were a few of those. I'll go over those in some detail, but really try to figure out what you do best and not so great, where you can grow, and what might be something you need to mitigate. Take risks and adapt, which I like to say, know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Great if you spend a lot of time on a strategy that takes into account your SWOT analysis and really knows your audience. But if something changes in the environment, and as we know it does, you need to be able to pivot towards a new strategy, changing it completely, throwing it out, making some tweaks, instead of being rigid and holding on to what you're doing. Pivoting is very, very key. So this is our sales for the last year. This is 2020. January, each bar represents a month. So the first is January to December. And I want to walk through each month as we go through, because the environment was really changing quickly last year and we got a lot of things thrown at us. So as you can see, under $100,000 a month in sales prior to the pandemic. I'm going to put the start of the pandemic for us at about March. Not reflected in the sales quite yet, but we started to feel it in our day-to-day, not being able to travel. People started to stay home. And in that month of March, not just us, but also our customers and everyone else was trying to figure out, how permanent is this? Am I really stuck at home? And when they did start to figure that out, that's what we saw in April. I'm stuck here. I can't go to the gym. So sales more than doubled in just a month, which I kind of thought was a fluke, because we're not going to stay home forever, right? People have to go back outside, don't they? So that was our initial spike. I think, again, in May, we thought this would continue, and we saw our manufacturer lead times go up. So this is important. We're drop shippers, so we sell products that actually have to get there. And before the pandemic, it was about 3 to 4 weeks that we could get one of these large saunas custom created and shipped and delivered. Now those lead times started to go up to 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10, 12, right throughout the summer. And I really thought that, as we know, American customers are very impatient. Nobody would wait that long. So I got a little bit nervous. We thought about taking deposits and then taking the rest of the money when it's shipped. And I made a decision to say, no, we're just going to keep doing that, even though we don't know when these will ship. So a lot of you folks that are in e-commerce and have to deal with freight saw this nightmare start to unfold in May as people asked, when am I getting this? And what I started to say was not 3 to 4 weeks, maybe 6, maybe 8. And the reality ended up being 10 or 12. So I created a very strong communication sequence, which I called, kick the can, and really, really stayed in touch with the customers on a weekly basis to give them any kind of updates. And that's really what people wanted. During May and June, there was a lot of panic about the pandemic, and people couldn't get in touch with whomever customer service, not just us, airlines, all of those things. So giving attention to our customers really kept them, and really also gave them something to look forward to every single week. My sauna's coming. This thing's happening. So that was super key and led to our biggest month ever, about almost 300,000 in June, but the delays started to continue. And I can honestly say for the last year, we had 0 refunds because of these delays. You would expect that someone that was told 6 weeks and didn't get their sauna for their product for 12 would be really, really upset. But we did a very good job with communication that actually helped us retain and not see any refunds for any of these delays. The summer kind of dipped down a little bit, and then we ended up having a problem in September where our ads broke for kind of a silly reason. Just didn't see that the payment method wasn't working. Nobody noticed that for about 2 weeks. So that created a big slump in September. In that same month, the manufacturer decided to increase the prices. So we thought, again, this is probably we've got a more expensive item, it takes even longer. At this point, we're at 12 to 15 weeks. I'm sure that the sales are going to go down. And again, that didn't happen. October started to climb back. We actually had half of our products taken out because there are 2 types of woods that we sell, and they discontinued one of those things. So we had half of our products and less expensive product, actually. But what we found is that actually drove up our revenue because the more expensive version was there. And as you can see, continued to increase in November and December. And then we had another price increase just before the end of the year. That's typically normal. They really have price increases for each calendar year, but we just had one in September. And again, still thought that would break it. So what kept us really strong over this time period was really communication and sticking to our audience, constantly improving our site. We improved the UX, UI, customer experience to make it easier for people to understand what the features were. We took a lot of feedback and continued tweaking throughout this and continue to communicate with our customers. And as people started to stay home and realized that the pandemic was going to be something that we need to live with for quite some time, our sales kept increasing. So how's 2021? Well, our 12-month rolling average is about 133,000 per month. So we're still on track. As of this month, we've already crossed the 7 figures for this year as well. We have 2 suppliers, the traditional outdoor saunas that I showed you at the beginning of the presentation, which we're having some challenges because of lumber. So not just because of the pandemic and shipping, but since demand went up and there weren't that many manufacturers to begin with, also the lumber shortage just in the general home improvement and construction industry. That situation is starting to get a little bit better. We added indoor infrared saunas also to be complementary. They tend to ship quicker, they're easier to put together, and the price point's a little bit lower. We're looking at adding some more suppliers as well, but we're also thinking about an exit strategy, and that's important. I feel we've brought this business to a very good point. And then maybe having another person or another company acquire it with a different type of marketing strategy, or we just continue to expand. There are a lot of manufacturers and a lot of opportunities in this home improvement industry. So we're hoping to see a lot of those open up next year and be able to add other types of suppliers or complementary products to our platform. So different types of saunas, indoor and outdoor saunas, different types of hot tubs. The outdoor space is still very strong. So those are the opportunities here, and that's where we are in 2020 so far. So the key learnings. I said before, know your audience. What did that mean for us? So know your audience. Ours is the top 1% folks in the US, the Class A people that are making at least a combined household income of $200,000 or more. That makes for a very elastic demand. So that's why when I talked about the 2 price increases, which scared me a lot, I saw that as a big threat. When you think about it, somebody that has $10,000 for a sauna probably also still going to pay their rent if it goes up to $15,000. So being able to increase the prices and not have that affect demand was quite unusual, but that's because of our audience. We also had another price increase this year. So they've gone up 3 times, and we're still seeing very consistent demand, and we're still staying along the same average and even moving towards an upward trend. The other piece that was very important is high touch customer service. This particular type of customer doesn't want to wait for anything. They don't want to have to make a phone call, or if something's damaged, they want to be able to get in touch with somebody quickly. Also, as many of you know, being an online business, you need to be able to have credibility and respect from your customer. So you need to be responsive. So we've developed a very comprehensive customer service model. We added a 24-hour service also so that somebody always picks up the phone, because that's very particular to the US customer and someone that is in this luxury brand and a higher class. So you're either talking to them or their executive assistant, and they want answers of when they're going to get. their product, or if they have any issues with the product, or how long it's going to take to get there. So that one's super important. Know your business. So for us during this time, as I mentioned, all of those challenges, a lot of them go back to the manufacturer and the shipper. So we needed to develop really strong relationships with the manufacturer so they'd communicate with us and give us access to what the estimates were for shipping and all of those changes. And then also relationships specifically with different shippers and freight managers. Those are two separate parties who's actually making the product, and the companies that are in charge of getting the product there. We had so many challenges. And I know everyone that's in e-commerce that sells products, my goodness, you definitely saw so many challenges last year, because everyone in the US that had a pickup truck was a freight delivery person, and it was very difficult to track things, to give people estimates. So what we did was make sure to develop a really strong relationship so that I get a phone call back, because everybody's panicking and screaming and trying to get answers last year, and it was a lot of confusion. So in that confusion, these relationships really saved me. The payment terms were also important. As I mentioned before, we were thinking about going with a deposit, like on a 10 grand sauna, let's take $1,000, and then when it ships, they can pay the rest. Well, if you remember earlier in the presentation, our margin is not 90%. So if we were to take just 10% or even 25%, even 50% deposit up front, the manufacturer makes the sauna, it's a custom sauna, and the person backs out. The customer says, no, I'm canceling. Even if they lose their deposit and we keep 50%, we lose up to 25%, because you can't resell a custom sauna. I mean, you could, but probably not for a price that would be able to cover our cost of goods. So those payment terms, taking 100% up front, which we still do, and current lead times are 15 to 20 weeks, sometimes even more than that. We still take the whole $10,000, $15,000 up front. And that also keeps the customer very, very committed as well. And they will remember us when we're communicating with them consistently on a weekly basis of when they can expect their product. Competitive analysis also turned out to be very important, to know the different experiences that customers would have online in their purchase process with our competitors. We know why our site's better. We know that it's easy to read. It actually surprised me early on in e-commerce that someone would spend, actually did yesterday, $20,000 on a sauna their first time to our site without talking to anybody. Why? Because it's super easy to use. Going onto our website, seeing what the shopping cart is, being able to tell what all the different customizations, the features are, a person can make a very confident decision about a high-end product quickly. And we know that wasn't the case with our other competitors, nor was their responsiveness, customer service. We went across the board, and that's why we're the #1 in the US for these particular types of saunas. And then lastly, taking risks and adapting. I really wasn't sure how far out those lead times would go. And that was super, super scary to me. But I made a commitment and said, okay, if it's going to take, it's not going to be 6 weeks, it's going to take 8. I will handle that. So I called it the email drip of disappointment, basically saying, we know you're looking forward to your sauna coming to your house and that times are tough and you need something to look forward to. But keeping in touch regardless of disappointment, regardless of the angry customers and the Karens that wanted to talk to my manager and all of those things, just staying consistent and talking and keeping in contact was really important. And also managing expectations, being honest with folks. Sometimes I had to say, I don't know, which wasn't acceptable. But that essentially, taking those risks, saying, yep, we're just going to do the best we can to get the product to you as quickly as possible, and keep that communication. Other takeaways, lastly, as I wrap up, drop shipping is not passive income. I kind of thought it was. The way that a lot of these different communities talk about drop shipping is just put up a website and, sell whatever knickknack and you'll just make money in your sleep. And that's definitely not the case. Maybe it was a little bit easier before the pandemic if you were shipping things, but it is a very active business. Build your team earlier. Cheap resources, you get what you pay for. So I definitely believe a lot of us outsource to different types of different levels of people that we think we can train. I'm not a big fan of having to train a lot, especially when your business is growing fast. You want to have someone that can take initiative and help during times of massive growth. So I wish I added more team members a little bit earlier on, and people with a lot more experience. Networking in the digital nomad community. Prior to this, I wasn't doing a whole heck of a lot for most of 2019 and kept trying to network and meet people, and nothing came up. So I just kept doing that. And fortunately, I met the founder of Divine Saunas in Bansko or talked to him, not the first time, not the second time I went to Bansko, but the third. So keep showing up. And now I know we can't all be in the physical places, but show up online, show up at things like this, show up in the comments, get your name out there and network. And maybe you can, as we have to try to adapt and do different things, you can have other people that can help you do that. And then lastly, no experience, no problem, learn it. As I said, I knew nothing about e-commerce prior to 2019. So if you see an opportunity, you're ready for a challenge, dive right in and learn it. And you never know, you can really excel at it. So that's me, guys. I think I cut it right under the wire. Are there any questions? Dory, can you help me with that?
Thank you so much, Mariza.
Thank you.
I'm just going to do this. I have a question. So one thing I would like to know from you is, I mean, this is what you're doing requires a really high ad budget, right? In order to promote the saunas, or that was your...
Surprised. Actually, we started out about $2,000 a month.
Okay, that is very interesting to hear.
What it does require is a very good ad strategy, picking the right keywords.
Was this also something that you've done before?
No, we hired an outside consultant for that. As I said, I'm kind of marketing stupid. Which is very unique for a nomad. But if you don't know it and you don't want to learn it, we've got tons of resources in our community. There's plenty of people that specialize and pay for it. So we have a very good ad strategy that needs a little bit of tweaking from time to time, but it works well, and it's not the $30,000 that our competitors are spending that we can see. So also a very lean strategy.
So what is your, how can I say, superpower? So something where you think you're really good, in order to build this business, right? Are you good building a team? Is there, what kind of experiences you had in the past that now helped you to build this business?
Superpower. I don't know if I would call it a superpower, but my strength is sales. I think we're all in sales. A lot of people think they have a salesperson and that person takes it, but we're in sales, whether it's with your customer, building relationships with your supplier, with your team, to be able to do that. Managing a team, not as much strength, trying really hard to develop that, but that's also very important, and being honest. So the sales helped me not just with the customers, but to be able to build a stronger sales model and the communication that I mentioned to you as well. So that definitely helps. Yeah.
And I mean, knowing the numbers, right? When you do the sales, to not mess this up. I mean, these are huge budgets, right? So you can also run this, against. And then another question. So, I mean, there must be thousands of people who could sell saunas online, right? And do this kind of business, but and it's not even you are producing the saunas, you're just helping someone else to sell it. So what I'm wondering is, so did you have a specific market where you were targeting when you did these sales, or was it just in a specific area, or is there really just, even though you are just the intermediate person, still so much room?
You would think, Johannes, you could just throw up a johannessaunas.com website. But right now you can't, because most of the manufacturers aren't taking new dealers. The demand is just through the roof. Or if they are, they don't want to really hear about, you just have an online store. We wanted to you don't have a brick and mortar, because it's a very traditional industry. So saying that you're just a drop shipper, some of them actually put on their websites that no drop shippers.
Okay.
So yeah, the replication and also having not the barrier to market is actually very helpful right now as well.
Of course. I mean, in the beginning of the pandemic, nobody really saw that, like, this is basically doing the right thing at the right time, right? With a lot of our strategies or business, it often happens your success because you do the right thing at the right time. And once you see that everyone else is doing it, that's usually too late. So learning a lot of skills and then applying them in the right moment can be something, super helpful. Thank you so much, Mariza, for being here today, for sharing your story. And,
thank you. I just wanted to mention one other thing that I'd like to start at the end of the year. So for those of you that want to get into e-commerce, I'm putting together a mastermind specifically focused on women. It's kind of lonely in this space, in this dropshipping space. So if you're interested in learning more about e-commerce and having a mastermind group, you can just send a DM to me and I can send the application to you. So I believe all the contacts for us are on the website, and send me a message. I'd be happy to put together a group like that and see if we can get more 7-figure entrepreneurs next year.
Women mastermind built around the business of dropshipping. Whoever is interested or wants to get in touch with you, we will add your details also at the end of the this presentation. You can also leave it in the chat right now if you have something there that you'd like to share. And yes, so thank you so much, Mariza.
Thank you so much.
Now hand over to Dori and Adela, and we are going to introduce our next speaker. Thank you, Mariza.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johannes, and thank you, Mariza. It was your story. This was truly inspiring, especially considering the fact that you didn't have any experience in e-commerce nor in online marketing, as you said. So thank you again. And now we already have Adela with us.
Hello,
thank
Dori.
you. Thank you for being here, Adela, and thank you offering your contribution to this. So Adela is a brand strategist and also an innovation speaker consultant. Mm-hmm. So she's going to talk about a very important topic, mindset blocks on early stage of entrepreneurship. So yes. I think this topic is really, really important, especially jumping into running your own business. It's not an easy one. And I'm pretty sure that many of us will be able to relate to this topic, especially women, because we tend to have a lot of limiting beliefs that are holding us back. Yeah. And we are scared so many times. So I'm really looking forward for your talk, and the stage is yours.
Yes, let's get started. Yeah. Okay, let me see. Let's get started. And yeah, this is perfect. Okay. Awesome.
Cool.
So, yeah, like Dori was saying, the talk today, it's called Mindset Roadblocks when Transitioning Towards Entrepreneurship. It's a mouthful. I know. I'm sorry about that. We are basically going to be talking about the most common missteps that most people make on the early stages of entrepreneurship, because it is not easy to transition to the way that we're used of looking things when we're inside a corporate environment, or even people who go straight from being students to building a company. It's a very different perspective. It's a very different environment. And sometimes there's instincts that we need to unlearn. And this can be not very easy. But before we start, I want to very quickly give you a little bit of background, because I am a strategic branding consultant and innovation, but this is not what I've been doing all my life. This has been more a means to an end to me, the end being a digital nomad. I actually spent most of my professional career in the fashion industry. I worked over 12 years as a designer first, and then as a buyer, brand manager, and product developer. I studied fashion design, and I started my career in very creative roles. But very quickly, I realized that only creating was not enough for me. I needed to be the one making the decisions, taking the shots, right? So I moved towards more strategic and business-oriented positions. Buying allowed me to do this. It allowed me to have visibility of all of the steps of the product development process. And it also allowed me to discover my superpowers, since Johannes was talking about superpowers. See, I've always been somewhat in the middle between creativity and passion and like artistic development and logic, hard facts, strategy. In these positions I was working, I was sort of a mindset translator. I was a bridge between the very creative, very passionate profiles and the more strategic, number-driven, facts-driven people. This position helped me understand, and I understood even more when I started working with clients, that some of these things that the creatives, the passionates, and I found also digital nomads for some reason are not so comfortable with, are very, very important to build a sustainable and successful business. Things like long-term goals and strategy and data analytics, team management, etc. And on top of this, before you get to these things, there's a very important thing that they seem to struggle with, and that is mindset. So what we're going to be talking about today are mindset roadblocks. With this, what I mean is moments on your entrepreneurial journey that a certain instinct is maybe going to lead you to make the wrong decision, or even it's going to give you decision paralysis and it's going to prevent you from moving on. And these are, I've seen, pretty common amongst most people. The first one is motivation. Not so much finding motivation, because I think everyone that takes the leap, right, from jumping the corporate train and starting their own journey, you tend to be very motivated and excited about it. It's not about finding the motivation so much as it is about understanding it. Because every time that we make a big decision in our lives, a life-altering one, there's usually a very clear underlying reason. There tends to be something that we are missing in our life, or something that maybe it's too present and we want to get rid of. And being aware and mindful of this underlying cause is actually the best way to start this journey in the right foot, because you're going to be able to make decisions that take you closer to this goal. Now, in the past years, I've identified 7 key motivational drivers that tend to be common amongst most entrepreneurs. The first one is probably, to nobody's surprise, the most common amongst nomads, and that is freedom. Basically being able to work when you want, where you want. But this is not the only one. I think a very important one amongst nomads and creatives as well is excitement. For some of us, knowing how tomorrow, next Tuesday, and next October is going to look like is torture. We need to do different things and learn different things, right? And be constantly challenged and excited. Then we have independence. I said before that the main reason for me to transition from design towards buying was the fact that somebody else making the decisions about the things that I was starting, I think there's some background noise, and sorry about that, was killing me. I wanted to be the one who took the shots. Then we have fulfillment. I think this is also very recognizable. You want to do something that matters to you. A lot of us have worked before in works that we couldn't really give a damn about. And it is really not the same when what you're doing, it's someone related to your passions or your values. Then there is very important one, control. There is a lot of people, and I have found this a lot also between nomads, that have a certain way of doing things that they know it works and this is how they want to work. And if they have to be doing things in a different way, they hate it. This is, I think, also probably one of the top 3 for most nomads. Then on the other hand, there's people who build a business not because they want excitement or freedom, but because actually they want to know that there's going to be a stability, that they can build something long term, that their paycheck is not going to be depending on somebody else. And finally, ownership. This one I see mostly for creatives and creators of all sorts. I saw this a lot when I was working in fashion. I was working for brands, right? Not designer labels. And we had a lot of very talented designers and illustrators. And for them, it was quite kind of bittersweet when they saw somebody on the street wearing something that they had designed. On the one hand, it was really cool, right? Because somebody bought your t-shirt with the design that you made. But on the other hand, they don't know it was you. They don't know who you are. They are never going to do that. So this can become a bit challenging. Now, all of these things are clearly very good things. There's no bad stuff on this list, but you cannot accomplish everything at the same time. I think it's important to know our priorities because some of these really cool things are sometimes mutually exclusive, or at the very least, they sit on opposite sides of the decision-making process. For example, more excitement usually means less control. More stability usually means less freedom. So I would advise everyone to note maximum of 3 and order them by priority. And this is your why. This is basically what you are trying to accomplish. The whole reason why you're starting this whole thing. Have this very present and very mindful and revisit it often, because as life moves on, your priorities are going to change. I'm sure after this whole pandemic thing, many of us who were all about freedom and excitement, I may be appreciating a little bit of calm and control a bit more. Now, moving on. The second one is assets and liabilities. Now that we know what do we want to achieve, the next step should be to realize what are the ingredients and tools we already have at our disposal in order to make this happen. And this is also something that not a lot of people start and think. I see a lot of novel entrepreneurs that before even doing this, they just start to look at what other people are doing and kind of destination shopping, trying to see, they try this little bit, they try this little bit, they kind of go as they see. The smartest way is to actually stop and think. The thing is, even if you have never built a business before, you're not starting from scratch. You have accumulated X number of years of skills, talents, experience, knowledge, and amongst all of these things, from your professional, your personal life, your passions, there are for sure things that can be turned into a marketable product. So a very good exercise that I recommend everyone, and that has actually personally helped me a lot, is just taking a piece of paper, dividing it in 4 columns. 2 are your assets and 2 are your liabilities. Your assets being the things that you have in your favor, and the liabilities being things that can hinder you. Now, the first column is about your talents and your skills. If you think about everything that you know that you can do better than most people, things that you know that most people don't know, from all kinds of things. It can be from a certain kind of software that you know how to use, or maybe you were brought up trilingual, or maybe you're a very good public speaker, maybe you can keep your shit together under pressure. Whatever valuable skill that you have, either because it's natural to you or you learned it, just note it down there, even if you have never done anything professionally related to that. And on the opposite side of the paper, write the things that you're not particularly skilled at, because we all have those too, right? Things that it could be, maybe you're not comfortable at sales, or like you're not very good at marketing, like Mariza was saying. Maybe you get uncomfortable speaking to bigger groups, or there's a certain piece of equipment that you know it would be useful, but you can't afford just yet. And then in the middle, we're also going to note our emotional drivers meaning the things in life, in business, that never fail to either improve or ruin our day. And we all have this. Even like if you've ever worked even in a corporate environment, there were little tasks or things about your day that will always make you excited to go to the office. And there were other things that will make you dread having to get on the bus or whatever. And the same about your life. And I did a very similar, I did a very similar exercise to this before I started traveling. And I remember I had things like, I like the beach and traveling and meeting new people in one column, and I have winters and corporate politics and thing in my dislike columns. And I somehow found my way to to work remotely and try to avoid winter like the plague and work only with people that I can fit from their energy. There is things from my previous experience that I'm not using, but that is okay, because your skills and your experience, some people think that they're like a puzzle, it's like a perfect puzzle that you put together. But I like to make the comparison that instead of a puzzle, it's more like Legos. You can build many different things. You can use half of all your Legos to build a thing. You can use all of your Legos to build another thing, or you can build 3 small pieces. There's not one right way for you to use your skills and your knowledge and your passion. There is like probably an infinite number of combinations. Now, this list, this assets and liabilities chart, is going to be very useful. It's going to be very useful for you to confirm your why. The first exercise was about understanding your underlying motivations, right? You should see this reflected, especially on the emotional drivers. And then this is going to help you move forward, because once you understand what are you trying to accomplish, what ingredients you have in order to make this happen, the next step is finding out the perfect recipe. This is why the third mindset roadblock is market value. And again, very common misconception here. I see a lot of people that when they have decided more or less what they're trying to do, when they are thinking about building their product portfolio, the services they want to give, they look inward. What can I produce, right? When the smartest thing is to look at the market. Like we were saying, you have all of these potentially marketable skills and talents and knowledge, which are like Legos or like ingredients. The way you should choose to combine this it should be based on what the market is needing at the moment. You can build something that maybe you enjoy doing a lot, or it's easy for you to do, but nobody needs in the market. Mariza was saying before how important right moment, right time is. Well, right moment, right time, and right product, right? For that moment and that time. You could also choose to do something that the market is already very saturated for. And when you do not think of competition and consumer at this step, like before you've ever decided what kind of stuff do you want to sell, most people try something, they put it out there, they see how it works, they go back to a drawing board, and they lose a lot of time, a lot of effort, and usually also a lot of money. Just see first what is the market needing, and what of these needs can you cover with your skills. And then the fourth one, oh my God, I'm speaking super fast. I'm gonna finish very soon. The fourth one is, again, something that should be very basic, and tech people are probably going to say, what, everybody does this, but this is only tech people that are used to this concept, is MVP. You now understand what are you trying to accomplish. You know the kind of tools that you have to build something, and you have seen where does the needs of the market lie. The next step is to find what is the easiest way for you to deliver this product, this value to the consumer, and start small. I see way too often novel entrepreneurs that want to give the most possible options to the customer from the get-go. This is like a very nice thing for you to want to do for your customer, but it's not very smart. It's going to be a lot more work, and it's going to prevent you from being able to understand what is working better and why. So an MVP, again, people in the tech world are very familiar with this, but not so much everybody else, stands for minimum viable product. And a good minimum viable product makes life super easy. Why? To make sure that you have a good minimum viable product, number one, you need to make sure that this is going to serve your why, right? If you want to have a product, if your key motivational driver is control, then try to find a product where you are able to devise from beginning to end, and you don't need to interact with anybody else, right? Every step of your business, even a small one, and a minimum viable product should be like a small one, should serve your why. It should bring you closer to that goal. Secondly, it should be really easy for you to provide, meaning you should be able to put it together and deliver it with the things that you already have available, the things that are already on your assets chart. Third, it should be easy to acquire and understand, meaning it should be a no-brainer for the customer. It should be something that when you're talking to somebody, they understand in one go, and that they are just like, take my money. It should be really, really easy. And fourth, it can lead to a larger product. A minimum viable product should be like a gateway drug to your brand and your product. It should give them a little taste of this value that you can provide them and keep them coming for more. So to recap, very important steps on early entrepreneurship, which you should for sure be mindful and watch out. Make sure to understand the reasons why you're starting this journey. Account for the tools that you already have at your disposal. They are more than you think. Identify gaps in the consumer satisfaction that you can bridge with your assets, and figure out the easiest way for you to bring that value to your consumer. And always start small. Okay, that's all from me. Do we have any questions? How do we do this now?
Hi. Hey, Adela. First of all, thank you so much. I'm back.
You're welcome.
So it was super useful, and I especially really like the exercise that you mentioned, that I can, I love, I dislike, I can't. I think this is something that we all need to definitely do. And so can you just like tell me, I'm really curious, like, because we were talking about entrepreneurship and like you are strategic brand strategist, but like when it came to your starting your own business, what was your biggest challenge that you had to overcome?
That's a very good question, and I wouldn't know how to answer, because I think for me it was a huge mindset transition, but that happened gradually because I was working as a senior buyer for a huge brand in Dubai, and at one point then I said enough. I am literally ruining my life just to make a very rich man even richer. So I quit, and I almost immediately started working with a fashion tech startup. And it was fully remote. And I was working as an expert consultant, like an in-house consultant, right? Because a lot of people in fashion tech, they know nothing about fashion. So they build a lot of really sophisticated solutions that absolutely will never work. So I was trying to help them with that, and I worked with them for a couple of years. And in the meantime, because this was like semi part-time, I went down a rabbit hole where I got obsessed with consumer science and behavioral science. And I had already done branding for the brands I was working for. So I had branded and rebranded several clothing lines, and it just kind of came together. For me, it was very organic. At the beginning, the having my own business was just a way to keep my visa open while I thought I found another job. But then, because the startup I was working with was fully remote, I spent a summer traveling because, summer in Dubai, you don't want to do that. So I went 1 month to Georgia and 1 month to Thailand. And then I met the community of digital nomads. And I said, okay, I don't know what I'm doing next, but it's going to be with these people. Yeah.
Okay. That's really interesting. And so currently you are, what kind of people, like what are the companies that you're working with as your own?
Now I'm working on one side with fashion tech startups and more like that kind of startup moment. And then I also have some clients which are like more small indie brands that like I have a client, for example, Teresa is a Portuguese girl who's starting a secondhand bridal shop in Lisbon. Super cool project. So yeah, a little bit of a mix. I'm always like, in Spanish we say, with my foot in all the paddles. Like I'm always doing 20 things at the same time. But
Okay.
yeah, like mostly people who are either too creative for their own good, or people that are trying to build a solution that has to do with a emotionally strong product, like it's fashion, for example, and they are not too empathetic. So it's again that mindset bridge that I was talking about at the beginning.
Yeah, and this is interesting. And the other question that came to my mind is that you were saying that like super important to find your why, and then basically without like before like really starting to create and do this list, but before starting like exactly this is the solution or service that I'm going to provide, see what the market needs. So where do you find this balance of like this is what I'm really passionate about doing, and like this is what the market needs?
Okay, so what I say is your business model, the dynamic of your business, like how do you want to operate, like your operations, let's say your operations and the dynamics of the business need to be built for your needs, your reasoning, what you want to achieve, but the product and the brand needs to be built for the customer. Then, and there is a point when you say, oh great, so what I want to do is I want to have more freedom, and I want to do one-on-one work. Like I don't want big teams or whatever. I want to do one-on-one work, and I want to do one-on-one work that has to do with, I don't know, productivity management or something. When you decide how you're going to build these products, now it's time to forget about yourself and think, what is the customer needing? And then you can build a product that fits them. Because what we need to understand is people try to picture their their customer as themselves or their bestie. But the people that you can help the most, it's probably very different from you. They're lacking the things that you have. So trying to picture yourself as the person you want to sell to, it is an understandable instinct, but it's not the smartest way.
Yeah, this actually makes a lot of sense. And like thank you for this, and thank you for
I just wanted to leave my details if someone wants to continue the conversation. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
I mean, it's actually super easy to find me because it's Adela Alonso, like in this, that's not a typo. I have two surnames. They're both the same. What do you want to do? So you can really find me everywhere as Adela Alonso, and that is my email. And I am in between laptops. I wanted to do this better, but if you were here and you enjoyed the talk, send me an email and I will send you a PDF copy of my book.
Yes.
It's The Passion Entrepreneur.
Yes.
This was a pandemic project. Again, I wanted to do more public speaking, and I was already going to speak in some events that never happened, of course. So I thought, okay, what do I want to accomplish? I want to put my point of view out there and be understood as an expert. What do I have? I have time in my hands, and then I just wrote the book. So it's basically just about that.
Yeah, that's really useful. Thank you so much. And like, yeah, so everyone can just take a screenshot of all the details and like write it down, and then Adela can send you that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adela. If I would have listened to your talk about, I would say 6 years ago or even 10 years ago, and I would have taken this serious, what you're saying, I would be running a completely different business, and also probably a lot bigger and a lot better. And oftentimes there's so much value in information, and we just learn about it way too late on our journey.
This is the main feedback that I get, either from the book or when I start working with somebody, is, damn, if I only knew you 3 years ago or 5 years ago. And this makes me happy and also a bit sad, because
that's okay.
Obviously
that's part of the journey, and it's part of the learning. Only
Yeah, I also learned, I don't know if I will have been able to communicate this 3 or 4 years ago. So, it is what it is. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much,
nice in the
Adela. I think that you will do a lot of great talks in the future. This was really, really valuable. Thank you so much for sharing this with us today. And we are actually going to introduce our next speaker now. So thanks so much for being here today.
Bye.
And
thank you.
We'll meet soon somewhere.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so now we are going to introduce our next speaker. His name is Robert, and he talks about another topic that I wish I would have learned a lot more about in the past, and that is focus. And focus is very much a very important topic, especially for nomads. And I see that a lot of nomads are struggling with this topic of focus, because when we travel, we get a lot of ideas, we see opportunities all over, and we are actually surrounded by opportunities. But the most important thing is that we decide to go for one thing. And this is also why the previous talk was really, really good from Adela, because it showed us the focus that we do to actually make the first step in our business. And now I'm excited to bring on board Robert into the studio. Robert, from where are you joining us today?
Hi, how's it going? I'm joining from Panama City, where I'm living. I'm living in Panama since 3.5 years, first on a Caribbean island, now here, yeah.
Perfect. I'm not going to make it too long now. We've been talking a bit too much here. I will just let you share your story and share your talk about the focus, such a very, very important topic for nomad life, and excited to see this now. Do you have some screens that you want to share, or you want to do it like this? Just as
I'll just do it like this, and I have a couple photos or some shares, but I can do it through the software here.
Okay, you do it with your software, because Robert has got a new video studio there, so we're gonna see how you're gonna be using this, I guess.
Yeah, right? You're the first one seeing me in that studio, so hey.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here today, Robert.
All right, cool.
And
I'm happy. Thanks for the invitation.
Gonna leave you now. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Hey, hope you're all doing good. Welcome to Focus. Less work, better results, more freedom. How to get laser focused and crush your goals without ever having to force yourself. Like, the number one reason you fail to get results you want is not that you are distracting yourself. The number one reason is also not that someone else is distracting you from your goals. And it's also not that you're not using the right techniques or tools. The number one reason you fail to get the results you want in your life is that you are not getting into the right focus energy. Once you are in an energetic state of laser focus, let's call it laser focus, everything else will sort itself out effortlessly. Even all of your efforts to get yourself distracted. The best way to initially get there to laser focus is to grow an understanding about laser focus and what it really does for you. Laser focus equals better results in less time, meaning being able to absolutely crush your goals. In a career, that equals a better job or a bigger business, which equals more money. And more money equals more options in life. And with more money, you can buy yourself more time to actually act on these options. Like, for example, you can go ahead and take the luxurious vacation that you always wanted because you can also take the time off for it. At the same time, you can also buy yourself time to make more money. Like, for example, you could invest money into employing somebody to grow your business while you are on vacation. That's exactly why achieving laser focus equals more freedom in your life. Does that make sense to you? Just go ahead. You see the comments window. Go ahead and write, makes a lot of sense to me. Just go in there, write, makes sense. So we keep the energy high together. All right. Looking forward to see your comments there. In other words, we could also say that this speech is also about how to make more money in less time, while at the same time gaining more freedom through focusing the right way. And my goal for you is, so if you're staying until the end with me, I'm gonna give away cash to you for free, a total of $300 in the form of Amazon e-gift cards. And yes, there is a catch. You can only get it if you also are gonna act on my free offer at the end, and I promise it's gonna make sense to you. So why am I gonna give away cash to you? Because I really want this to matter for you and me. And it only works if we're fully focused here together. So let's make the best out of this time. Let's focus together for the next 20 minutes to give yourself the chance to radically transform your life and create more freedom for yourself. So if you got your cell phone out right now or any other applications open or so, do yourself the favor, remove all of them and stay with me 100%. This is why I know what I'm talking about. Just really quick. Like, I was never employed. I started my first business when I was 17. In my early 20s, together with partners, I was already developing a market-leading software in Austria, like working with some of the biggest companies in the country. And after 7 years of software business, I decided there was enough computer for a while, and I wanted to change my career. So I did. I completely switched it off, sold clients, etc., and became a personal growth trainer, and also at the same time a boogie-woogie, blues and rock and roll piano player. And I started that piano career with 0 piano skills at that time. I was 23, 24 years old, somewhere around that. And of course, everybody said it's a really stupid idea to do this. Like, I mean, you have a business up and running, works really well for you. Why are you going to do this now? But anyway, at that age, I just went on and built an international music festival with more than 1,000 yearly attendance over the course of the next 5 years. And also, I actually made it as a pianist to play at many of the international festivals in that scene, including the main stage of the biggest boogie woogie festival in the world. And on my way home from that festival, by the way, I brought a photo for you, so you can also see how I look like there. I mean, now I look more business-like, but I look a bit more crazy on stage like this, getting interacted with the audience and keeping everybody up. That was a lot of fun for me. That was actually a concert in the USA, a very cool festival. I love thinking back to that. So on my way actually from the biggest festival in the world, I decided to, again, become an entrepreneur. So I started another small but successful software company together with another partner, which was very cool. So I had cash flow coming in. And then I started another business shortly after, and it failed. And it was very, very painful, actually, to experience that. That was the first time in my life I had to experience something like that. And shortly after, I decided to move to Africa. That's how my brain works. And actually, that got me into becoming a digital nomad and living the expat life. So that was about 6-7 years ago, something like that. And I don't regret it at all. So while traveling 73 countries so far, I've created 3 businesses completely online, making monthly 5-figure profits. One of them was an affiliate business, built that with a partner also, from 0 to, or close to 0 to making around 30,000 euros every single month, like up to 45,000 euros. That was the highest within 13 months. One online marketing agency built that up to 5 figures within a year, and a coaching/consulting company within, like I started that within the first month in the 5 figures. So once you kind of understand how that works, you can do it over and over just with more ease. So, and I also have helped several of my students to achieve the same or very similar results. And right now I'm working on building my first monthly 6 figures. So I'm certainly, yes, I've done a lot of things right. And even more certain, I've done a lot more things wrong. And after doing this and much more in the last of 20 years of my career, so end of this year, my career will be 20 years, I discovered the following. Number one, I discovered the lack of sustainable laser focus kills any kind of success. I also learned there's a specific way to create and also sustain laser focus. And almost nobody's aware of that. And I also discovered that I have a gift of leading others to greater success in business and life. And I'm doing professional coaching, consulting, mentoring part-time since about 15 years already therefore. And anybody, I promise you that anybody, yes, also you, can achieve laser focus and make things happen, like really big things that matter to you, even if you struggled with it all your life. And I discovered some of these things the hard way. And I mean, you get to cheat now, you're here in this talk with me, and you get the easy way. The hard way is, and maybe you can relate to that, I mean, maybe you have experienced this in your life, like trying to literally force yourself into focused work just to find out that soon after you're distracted again. Who can relate to that? Maybe you relate to that, like maybe you've tried to fix your focus issues with coffee or any other stimulant, drugs, or any techniques just to find out it did not work. Who can relate to that? And maybe you have also tried to figure out, I've even heard that from clients, like if you have some kind of psychological issues that prevent you from really being able to focus, or you know what, maybe you've even actually been producing some by overworking yourself like crazy. So do you want to know the easy way? Like the way that does not require you to force yourself into doing your work? while having the feeling of missing out something fun elsewhere? I mean, if yes, just go ahead, find the comment window again and write in there, yes. So let's keep the energy on and write in there, yes, I want to know that. I want to know the easy way. Let's say you go ahead and apply what I'm going to reveal to you, and you see your career explode. After doing this for a while, what would you think is the result in your life? Like, can you imagine how you would feel someday when your career explodes with a sense of ease, and when you have more money, more time on your hand than you could imagine right now? How would that feel? What would you do with your life? What would you do different? What would your friends say to you? During the past couple of years, I've achieved a state of where I was making even multiple 5-figure profits every month. Like, imagine you make $1,000 every single day while only working very little. And maybe I was not working very little 100% of the time, but a good chunk of the time. And this is really true. Once you figure certain things out, focus is a big part of making this happen. And there's a disclaimer, like, these results, yeah, they might not be typical, but could anybody do it? Probably. Most likely, I would even say. Will everybody do it? Probably not. But you can make the choice for yourself if you want to do something like this. So let's dig deeper into the 3 results of laser focus. Number 1, less work, which actually also means less time. And we go through why that is. Number 2, result number 2 of laser focus is better results. And we also deep dive together into why that is. And result number 3 is more freedom. And that one is very interesting because this one is a result, more freedom is a result of the less work and better results. So of the first 2 results. And you will be surprised what this really, really means for you. Just stick with me. So let's go to result number 1. Like, laser focus. If you work with laser focus, and then you will be able to work less. Or, now it's getting crazy, you may even have to work less. Many people think, and maybe even you think, that more work leads to more success. So let's see why this is not true. Most people, no matter if employed, self-employed, entrepreneurs, they think working more equals more and better results because, first of all, it just seems to be logical, right? And second, like, maybe even you have heard it somewhere else. Maybe you have seen it on the internet. Like, the internet is full of motivation videos and speeches and whatever that tries to convey work more and get more and better results. So that still does not mean that it's true. And if you stay with me, you will see why it is not necessarily true. And I'm not talking you don't have to work at all. No. If you want to create success, you have to work, all right? But I'm talking you don't overwork. You know, there's a certain balance that you can achieve, and you achieve it through that certain energy of laser focus. So let me give you an example. Like, let's just quick check together right here and right now. Like, for yourself, check together with me. How many hours on a work day do you work? Just keep that number in your mind. How many hours do you work in a work day? All right, now, are you really making the absolute best use of these hours? It's a yes or no. Or are you also kind of cheating yourself, at least sometimes, by counting some of the work hours as work time, but still doing something else, like going on the phone and then writing something on social media, or hopping on the phone, or doing something else, switching TV on, whatever that is? So maybe you've just caught yourself there. And if so, then you discovered together with me right now that you could cut down on your work time. without compromising your work results at all, right? Isn't that great? So if you find that great, go ahead, find a comment window again and write in there, that's awesome. Let's keep the energy up. Just write in there, that's awesome. Cool. Now, if you're being paid on an hourly basis, you might find yourself in trouble there a little bit, because you would kind of punish yourself by having to charge less hours for your work because you're just quicker in delivering your results. And maybe you might end up not fulfilling the amount of contracted hours, right? If you're employed. And there's a solution for this also, but that would be too much for this short speech right now. But I'm gonna address it in my free program that I'm gonna offer to you right at the end. So if you're employed or if you're self-employed but working on an hourly basis, that program at the end is gonna be super valuable for you because you're gonna solve that problem. Another big advantage of working less is this. You can actually establish really, really good energy management for your body and your brain. Meaning, you can afford to get your 8 hours of sleep every night. And you will be less stressed, more healthy, and more productive automatically. Number 2, you could, because you have more time on your hand, you could actually use that time and invest it into learning new skills, invest it into yourself, upgrading your career. Imagine, what would that do for you? That can only be a good choice, right? So no more excuse for not doing it. And third, you can afford to spend extra time on hobbies, parties, trips, time with friends, and so on, whatever you like spending it, without having a bad conscience about it. Result number 2 of laser focus, creating better results. If you work with laser focus, and then you will be creating better results and maybe even more results, even though you work less time. Let's see why this is. As you already know, once you work with laser focus, you will even have more time on a side of your work. So there's an amazing side effect happening because of that. Your subconscious part of your brain has more room to breathe. And it will use that breathing room to help you find better solutions for whatever you're tackling at work or even in life. Meaning, and now that's really crazy, but it's true, better solutions because, as a direct result of less work. Let me say that again. Better solutions, better results because of less work. If you think that's cool, then go ahead and write into the comments again, that's really cool. Cool, thanks. Being laser focused on what you're doing without any distractions also means that you can execute better on your task. So you will produce better quality results. So for example, what do you think? Does a professional piano player hit less or more right keys on the piano if playing fully focused? Will the music be better? Of course. So will be the results of your work. Is it good for you? Of course. And result number 3 of laser focus, more freedom. So if you work with laser focus, and then you will create more freedom in your life. Again, let's think through together why that is. Producing more results in less time and also producing better quality results in the same time means that you become so much more valuable as a professional on a marketplace. In other words, you are gonna make a lot more money as a consequence of that. Now, self-employed and entrepreneurs and everyone who wants to become that in future, listen really closely. What if you could multiply your income within a few months, just a very few months? Let's say you would double or triple your average monthly income throughout a period of just 3 to 6 months. For example, from 5,000 a month to 10,000 a month? Or if you would go from 10,000 a month to 20 or 30,000 a month, what would that do to your life? Like, what would you do with that extra money? Reinvest it, give it away, spend it on luxury, more traveling, spend more time with your loved ones? It's your choice. Now, because you're more valuable on the marketplace, you also have more choices and better quality choices available. As an employee, you can afford to find yourself a better employer or even become self-employed. As a self-employed or entrepreneur, you can afford to choose only to work with the very best customers and projects. How much more fun would your career become? Like, would that be awesome? Again, write into the comments. That's awesome. On top of all of that, you can start to think more about what really matters for you in life. Like maybe thinking about your real purpose and how to have more good influence on this planet. Helping out others with the gifts that you have to offer for them. Like I personally do think that is what life is all about in the end. And it's the reason why I'm also doing what I'm doing. So let me give you 3 quick case studies of clients of mine. And they are all working also with that type of laser focus. Like the first one, he was employed all his life, no business experience whatsoever. Never done online marketing, none of that. He started working with me and we also went into that type of laser focus. Plus, of course, we also used other strategies because you need to get some know-how of online marketing, etc. But he went from 0 income online and never have done any business online before to around $3,000 a month with his own online business in less than 3 months. And he left his country. So he became an expat and is starting to travel the world now also, and he's making more money meanwhile also. So the second case study I have for you is another client. She's in a professional coaching field for around 15 years, I think also. And she's also very successful, like super cool, super nice niche, doing very well. But she was stuck at an income level of around 10,000 euros every single month. And of course, she tried to make more than that, but it did not work out for her, no matter what she tried. And after working with me and also with that type of laser focus for just 5 weeks, and it's no joke, that's the truth. And you can, all of these clients and other results you can find on my webpage, you can write all of them, it's all true. Within the first 5 weeks, she made her first 30,000 euros in a single month. Was never possible for her for more than 10 years. And the third one I have for you, that was a startup I was working with that's a couple of years back. And they were already making 5 figures a month, but their business dropped down to less than 5. I think it was even less than 3,000 a month. And they worked with me for a couple of months, got their revenue back up to 5 figures a month, and also getting an investor on board on an actual investment TV show. Maybe some of you has seen some of them. And of course, their business is growing. So just changing their focus can have tremendous effect. And remember, I've promised to give away cash, right? A total of $300 in cash. And here's my offer to you. If you want to step up your life, if you want to step up your career, and if you think that laser focus might help you doing so, then go ahead and take my offer. Join my free 5 days Get Laser Focused workshop that helps you to have more time, more money, and more freedom in your life. And the workshop starts next Wednesday, 29th of September. It happens fully online. Can be done part-time, so you can do your work and then also do the workshop aside and still have some spare time for yourself. And you will also receive the exact techniques, tools that I use to produce laser focus and stay in laser focus mode. And if you play full out, it will be the starting point of really transforming your life for the better. And out of all the attendance, I will randomly give away $100 in the form of Amazon gift cards, like $100 to 3 participants that are randomly picked. You can actually find the registration link or the link to the registration page in the chat just in a bit. I'm gonna copy it there for you right now if I can. No, I can't. But what I'm gonna do is let me write it here. So the link is, and now go to robert-roth.com/focus. And the landing page will come on, and you can just type in your first name, your email address, and press the button to register. And then we're going to see each other in there. We're going to also meet in a Facebook group, and we're going to start out preparing together also as of today. Aside, and on Wednesday next week, we're going to start out the 5 days workshop and give yourself that chance to transform your career, transform your life, get more freedom. Any questions? Dein Mikro ist, glaube ich, aus.
Yes, my
all right.
Thank you so much, Robert. Yeah. I have we don't have so much time for questions now.
All right.
I have a question, and basically, I know that focus is important, but you know, what do you think with regards to discipline and experiences that you need to make first in order to find the focus? Yeah, you say that we don't need to work so much or whatsoever, but how do you actually get the experience, you know, to learn things and then decide on what is the right thing? What are your thoughts on discipline and experiences?
Very good question. Thanks for that. So I see it maybe a bit different than other professionals. Like, I think the most important thing is to, first of all, yes, you have to know what you want to achieve. Very important. But discipline comes after focus. Why? Because what I'm talking about is creating that energy of laser focus. Like, I'm talking, it's an emotional state you're going to be in. And that emotional state automatically makes you more disciplined also.
That is true. But with regards to that, I would like to know, I mean, discipline is also something like focus, right? Because you kind of need to avoid and ignore everything that's around you. And I see with a lot of nomads, you know, they have like 100 ideas for projects that they want to start. And so I think that this is also a way of collecting experiences around the world, and basically through all this confusion that you're surrounded with, that is only by experiencing the world, by us traveling the world. This is, we are open to so many opportunities.
Yeah, true.
and only then we know, you know, I mean, how can I focus on, say, I want to live in the Dominican Republic, right? If I've never been there before, if I've never been to any other countries or whatsoever before, and you know, then how do you ignore whatever is around you? And what would be your tip for this?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Like, the reason is why you're traveling. If it's only to collect these experiences, then great, then just travel and that will work for you. But if you have that, like, one thing, like if you have a purpose behind that, like, for example, like me, I'm also traveling more and more to speak in front of people, to inspire people all over the world in order to better their lives. So I'm traveling because I love traveling. I'm experiencing everything, but at the same time, this traveling is connected to one big goal, and that is how to do that. And that's also something we are gonna tackle in this 5 days free course, actually.
Yeah. So having a purpose for everything and connecting it to things. And I totally agree. I mean, for me in the beginning, I was just traveling around the world, and I love to do that. And so I didn't even know where to go, and because there were so many places I wanted to visit. And then I started kite surfing. That helped me to focus on just a few places. And after experiencing a lot of the world, I was able to focus more. And I also want to share, I mean, basically, I think one thing that is really, really important for nomads in the beginning is to really know what is the one skill that you can focus on in the very beginning instead of trying to learn everything. Adela did an amazing talk on finding exactly that focus, developing this right idea where you can go right into, you know, picking the one thing and ignoring a lot of things around you. And for everyone who wants to learn more about that, yeah, make sure you go to Robert's course and check this out, what you have to say there. I'm sure the workshop will be really great. Thank you so much, Robert, for being here
Thank
today.
you so much for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you.
Yeah, we are, Dory, we have here now as well. I think Dory has been struggling with focus as well in her life.
Oh yes, there's definitely there's always areas that we need to improve, and focus, I think it's one of the areas that I definitely can still improve, but I just got my noise canceling headphones and that works really good.
Very good idea.
Thank you so much, Robert. Thank you so much, Robert.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave the room here now as well. I'm going to leave this for Dory now, and she will introduce our next speaker. Thank you so much, Robert.
All right, thanks. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks. Yeah, so we are kind of like late for this, but like we are running out of time, so I don't want to take too much of this, but our next talk is super important when it comes to like freelancing, because I'm sure that many of us has asked the question like, how much should I charge, what's my worth, and then when you figure out the price, then you need to like get a good deal, and like negotiation process starts. And our next speaker, James, is going to talk about just that. So it's basically like negotiation will make the difference if we can actually enjoy our nomadic life, and we'll have time to go to the beach and just do whatever, like kite surfing if we want to, or we would need to sit in front of our laptops and just work 40-50 hours that we probably don't want. So thank you, James, for this. It's super important, and I'm really looking forward for all your knowledge around this topic.
Hey, Dory, thank you very much for the introduction. Okay, so let me just share my screen and let me know when you can see what I'm trying to share.
Yeah.
Is that coming through?
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet.
All right, okay, let me
you
try.
can try a bit. We can.
I'm going to try. Okay, there we go.
I'm having a look here when it comes up. Oh yeah, we can see something now.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch off.
Okay, I can't. So if I'm presenting the full screen, I can't see any comments. So I'll have to take questions at the end. So
yes, we will take the questions at the end. Don't worry about that.
Awesome. So I'm going to just start my timer because I know we're under a few time constraints. Okay, so we're going to talk this evening or this morning, wherever you are in the world, all about negotiation, and specifically how to charge what you're worth, or how to approach your negotiations with your clients, with your customers more confidently as a freelancer or a small business owner. So quick introduction, just to let you know who I am. So I grew up in the UK. The good thing about being from Birmingham is that it makes you appreciate everywhere else. I spent most of my professional career in Germany, close to Frankfurt. So I guess there's quite a lot of Germans on. I speak German if you want to ask me questions in German afterwards. I currently live in Sofia most of the year, so I'm kind of a part-time nomad. I just hate cold weather and I like paying less tax, so that's why I live here. I'm a typical Aries in many ways, and my background is I spent the last, almost 18 years now working in procurement, and the last sort of 16 years I spent in corporate procurement teams. So essentially I bought stuff and negotiated stuff for a living. So I've got 17 years of commercial negotiations, but since 2019, I've worked for myself essentially as a freelance consultant in that space. I've sourced and negotiated multi-million euro contracts for goods and services, transportation from companies all over the world. I've lived in 3 different countries, worked in 5, so dealt with lots of supplier negotiations as well, and say probably 10 times what we on this conference. I am also now a one-person business, albeit with a little bit of help with a few freelance tasks. So what are we going to cover? And we admittedly, we don't have a huge amount of time, but I'm going to try and cover off all of these. So we're going to cover how to adapt your style depending on the type of negotiation. We're going to talk about being aware of certain externalities and how they can come into play when you're negotiating. We're going to talk about probably the most important thing here, which is the importance of good preparation. If there's nothing else that you get from this discussion, then make sure that you prepare for negotiations. That's my probably biggest tip that I can possibly give you. How to open your negotiations with confidence. First impressions matter. Any of us that have been on blind dates or been on Tinder dates, we all know that. Resisting pressure to give things away or to cave into unreasonable demands, especially when, figuratively speaking, you think that you're the small guy or the small girl in comparison to a larger business that you're negotiating with. We're going to look at how to identify when a manipulative or unfair or unethical tactic is being used on you, how to spot that and how to deal with it. And finally, how to trade, propose and counter propose, because negotiation is just about that. It's all about trading and compromise as well as getting what you want. So in the digital nomad space, what negotiation challenges do we typically struggle with? Number one that I see in Facebook groups all the time is lack of confidence, especially when it comes to payment or charging what you're worth. Number two, especially for the ladies here, overthinking. Number three, perceived to be in a weak negotiating position. I think this comes from the fact that we often think that because we're small, we don't have much power or we don't have much leverage in our commercial discussions. And I'm going to show you why that often isn't true. If you're too dependent on one client, okay, I'm not going to tell you how to deal with this in a negotiation, but it's something that you need to be aware of. If you're dependent on one client for your revenue, then you're ultimately going to be in a much weaker negotiating position than if you have multiple streams of income and multiple clients that essentially give you the opportunity then to tell them no and to walk away. Customers, clients are often very price sensitive. If you feel that you're being beaten up on your hourly rate rather than the actual value proposition that you deliver, we can talk a little bit about that. Struggling with what to anticipate in negotiations. Often if we get caught blindsided by something that's unexpected that a client or an employer throws into a negotiation. Adapting to remote situations, especially as nomads, a lot of the negotiations and commercial discussions that you're going to be conducting are going to be on video conferences, or probably worse still on email or through Messenger in something like Upwork. Something that I would personally try to avoid. I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. And finally, dealing with manipulative negotiation tactics, which are a lot more common than you think, even if you don't realize right now that you've been led down that particular path. And finally, having to think on the spot. We all have to do it in negotiations if we get thrown a curveball while we're in a meeting talking about this kind of thing. So I wanted to ask you something just to ponder on. Why are children such good negotiators? Ever wondered why children always get their own way? Because they usually do. Well, they make it very clear exactly what they want. They don't beat about the bush. They're pretty straightforward in telling you what they want, which is a lesson to us all. They don't overthink what to say or how they conduct themselves or how they behave. They're certainly not scared of using emotion to get what they want. Crying, tantrums, drama. These are very, very common, albeit very manipulative negotiating tactics. If any of you have maybe had relationships in different cultures, you may have come across this before. You know, I had an Argentinian girlfriend for a while, and tantrums and drama were a very common negotiating tactic in Latin culture. Emotional triggers of the parent, they're very, very aware of the type of strings that they can pull to get what they want from people who are emotionally involved. But probably the most important ones are that they have no fear whatsoever of the consequences, and they have no awareness of any cultural or situational prejudices. So they're not going into negotiations feeling like they're somehow inferior or in a weak position. And I think that is an extremely important lesson to take into any negotiation that you may find yourself in. So the spoken word, let's talk a little bit about this. So we often think that we mess up in our negotiations because of what we say. And while that certainly can be true, if you don't have a structured negotiation strategy of how you're going to negotiate on things like price or payment terms or lead time, the reality is how we portray ourselves and how we come across to the other person is usually conveyed through predominantly by body language, but also by tone of voice. So if you're sat with your shoulders hunched, very, very meekly, you know, you've maybe not done your hair, or you're sat wearing yoga pants and you're speaking in a really shy tone of voice, anyone that's experienced in negotiation is going to pick up on that and realize and see that as a sign of weakness. So you really need to realize that even if what you're saying is the right thing, the way that you're saying it and how you're saying it is extremely important. So a little bit sort of associated with this are some of the externalities that you need to be aware of when you go into a negotiation. And you need to be aware of these. You don't necessarily need to play on them or use them to your advantage or see them as a disadvantage if you don't want to, but you need to be aware of how this comes into situational negotiation. So number one is gender, and that can either be that if you're negotiating with someone that is a very macho man, for example, you maybe feel a little bit inferior or a little bit weak in that situation, which shouldn't be the case. Also, if you're negotiating as a guy, maybe with a very attractive woman who's trying to play that and manipulate you through her looks and her posture and her mannerisms, again, you need to be aware of that and to be able to defend it and push back on it and play to your strengths. Culture is very, very important. Negotiating styles are very, very different depending on the type of business culture that you're negotiating with. So you need to be aware of, is the culture that you're negotiating with a culture of conflict, a culture of confrontation, or a culture of consensus? Culture of conflict, for example, in Middle Eastern cultures, it's very, very normal to have a very aggressive haggle on price as part of the negotiation. Certain German-speaking cultures, for example, are quite confrontational in the way that they do business. And Scandinavian cultures, on the other hand, are very consensual, as are Asian cultures as well. If you look at Japan, you look at China, it's a very, very soft, very consensual, very collaborative negotiating culture when it comes to business. So definitely need to be aware of that and prepared for it in terms of what to expect from your counterparty. Appearance is very important. The way you dress, the way that you portray yourself, especially if it's on a video conference, your mannerisms, your posture, sit up straight. If anyone's read Jordan Peterson, he talks a lot about posture and the way that you present yourself. It's very, very important in terms of displaying confidence and self-assuredness to make sure that you get the best out of a negotiation situation. And finally, observe the way that your counterparty is behaving with certain aspects of the way that they treat you. If they're always late, if they appear stressed, if they come to meetings with no structure or no agenda and go all around on a tangent and jump from one subject to another, the way that they talk to you, the tone of voice, do they interrupt you halfway through a sentence? All of these should be very clear warning signals around how they may behave if you take them on as a client, or if they become your employer, if you're perhaps a freelance remote worker doing the nomad thing that way. So all of these are very, very important types of different things that you need to be aware of before we go to the next stage around preparing negotiations. I touched a little bit before around remote negotiations. Most of you, I guess, are going to be in that situation now. If you're having things like Zoom or team meetings, be very aware of your lighting and your camera angle and your background and how you appear on video. If you appear on video like that and your lighting is in a semi-dark room and you're sitting all hunched and you're wearing a really baggy t-shirt, that doesn't portray a confident business person. Yes, it might be your style, and by all means, dress like that and behave like that when you go to the pub or when you go for dinner with friends. But when you're conducting a negotiation, behave professionally and dress as would suit that. And I don't mean wearing a suit and a tie, but dress smart, business casual. If you're a guy, have a shave. If you're a lady, wear a little bit of makeup to make sure that you look professional. And try not to rely too much on email or instant messenger, because words, and anyone that's used Twitter knows this, how easily people get offended these days online. Using words can often be misinterpreted. So if you can possibly conduct a negotiation on a Zoom call or in some sort of face-to-face virtual meeting, I would strongly recommend you to do so. So let's move on now to the most important thing, which is preparing for a negotiation and for squirrel. When move into preparation for a negotiation. First thing that I want to ask you here, do you think Donald Trump is a good negotiator? And before you answer that, I'm not asking you if he was a good president. I'm not asking you if you'd like him to date your daughter. I'm asking you, is he a good negotiator? And just spend a few seconds to think about that. Because initially you might have thought a very strong yes or a very strong no. I want you to think about that answer just for a few seconds. And then I will explain why I think what I think about Donald Trump. Okay, are we ready? So Donald Trump is an excellent negotiator if you're entering a negotiation where you need to win at all costs. So if you have a lot of power in the negotiation and you're negotiating with someone that has very little power and it's just a one-time transaction, if you're buying something off Facebook Marketplace, for example, or if you're talking about doing a piece of work with a client just once and then you'll never see him or her again, by all means negotiate like Donald Trump, because he plays to win. But in most cases, when we negotiate with clients, we want to have a longer term business relationship with them, right? Because as most of us know, it's a lot easier to earn more money from existing clients than it is for us to go out and sell something to a new client. So in most cases, when we negotiate, what we are aiming for is that green square in the top right-hand corner of this little diagram. We are negotiating to try and find a win-win scenario with our suppliers, with our clients, with our customers. And in those cases, Donald Trump is a bloody awful negotiator because he plays to win and he tries to get whatever he can and squeeze the last little bit of blood out of whoever he's negotiating with. So really just bear that in mind. It really depends on what type of negotiation you're entering into and how much power you have in relation to your counterparty, and whether it's a one-time negotiation or a recurring client that you want to do long-term continuous business with. But at all costs, you want to avoid the situation in blue where you end up working for them long-term but you feel like you've been manipulated and you're being used by them, which is the absolute worst situation that you can be in as a contractor or as a business, because you lose and they win. So let's talk a little bit about preparation. What do you need to understand to prepare for a negotiation? Well, first of all, you need to understand the basics of supply and demand in your market. How much power do you have, or how much leverage do you have relative to who you're negotiating against? What are your strengths, and what are the possible external opportunities out there that you can pull on to be able to get the most from your negotiation? Think about it the same way in terms of your weaknesses and any external threats. Very, very important. What is important for them? Have a think about, put yourself in their shoes. What is in the negotiation for them? And how can you give something that is important for them, but is really not very impactful for you? Right? So what can you give them that doesn't cost you much in terms of money or time, but is very, very important for them in terms of what can help them grow their business? I'm thinking here things like doing a bit of help for them by giving them a shout out on social media, or writing them a testimonial, something like that that can help them, that is at very little cost or very little effort for you. Finally, where do you have leverage, and how can you exploit this to get the terms and the conditions that you want? And where do they have leverage, so as where you can understand where you may be on the back foot, so as you can prepare yourself for that, and to be able to find ways that you can deflect that and be able to confidently push back on that if you find yourself being pushed against a wall where they feel that they have a power over you. This is an example of a negotiation battle grid. Not going to go into this in detail because we simply don't have time, but in the training that I will tell you a little bit about at the very end, we will certainly cover this in a lot more detail around coming up with a trading plan, knowing what's important for you versus what's important for them, and then ranking them in terms of how you're going to approach that. Finally, around preparation, you don't necessarily have to come to a deal. And we saw this a lot in the brinkmanship. If anyone followed the Brexit negotiations with the EU, there was always Theresa May, who was the British Prime Minister at the time, often said no deal is better than a bad deal. And while she was kind of playing poker a little bit, my personal opinion, with the way that she approached that, by having the ability to walk away, it's something that's very, very powerful. And we call that in negotiation terms BATNA. And BATNA stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. And that's why earlier on I said it's bad to be dependent on one client, because if you're dependent on one client, then he's really got a hold on you. He's, as we say, as guys say, he's got you by the balls. And to be able to be in a situation where you're not dependent on one client, you need to have an alternative or a BATNA. So as if you're going into a really shitty negotiation, you have the ability to be able to walk away from that and not be in a really poor position in terms of your revenue or your business. So that's the preparation phase. So now that you've taken all of that knowledge, how do you then go about applying that in a negotiation? Well, who remembers the Spice Girls? I'm maybe a little bit older than a lot of people that are on here, but when I was 18, I was going to marry Baby Spice. She was my favorite. And the motto of the Spice Girls was, tell them what you really, really want. And that is exactly the same as a negotiation. You have to get out there very, very early on in the negotiation what you want to get out of it. Now, by that, I don't mean telling them areas where you're willing to compromise, but you need to be able to control the negotiation. And this has been statistically proven by psychological studies. You need to go out and make the first offer. If your opponent is making offers to you you're constantly then on the back foot because they've set the pace of the negotiation. So in terms of motor racing, you need to be in pole position. You need to go out there straight out of the blocks and to be able to make the opening statement. Watch your words during the first few minutes of a negotiation. Know where you have your strengths and be able to use that. But very importantly, get your objectives out early, because you are going to have to trade and concede some things. But what you need to be made to make sure is that you're trading and conceding areas that are not so important to you, so as you can get what you want, and really to help to understand what they want, to get their shopping list out on the table early on. Because what you don't want to happen is to think that you're getting close to a deal, and then for them to put a whole new range of things that they want to get from you on the table when you think you've pretty much come to an agreement and you have nothing else left to trade that's not really going to hurt you. Trading is all about being smart. So it's trading, it's not conceding. You know, think about it like your pet dog. If you're rolling over and having your belly tickled in a negotiation, that is not a good position to be in. You need to be bold, you need to be confident, you need to be friendly, but you don't need to submit. So you need to use words like if and then. So if you're offering them something, then you're also expecting something back from them in return. This is all about proposing and counter-proposing and finding areas where you can compromise, but compromise does not mean submission. Compromise is for the strong, submission is for the weak. So if anything that you're giving is a concession, you need to make sure that it's something fairly minor that is not really going to hurt you, but is something that they potentially value very highly in terms of what they want to get from the relationship. Finally, if you do find things that are sticking points that you're really bashing your heads together on, it's often best to park those to one side and to approach them at the end, because then if you've built up rapport and you're having a more congenial discussion, it's a lot easier then to approach them at that stage. Looking for common tactics in a negotiation, you need to be very careful if you're going to use these, but all of these are very common tactics that you will find. So limited authority, you know, I'm not able to make a decision. Deadline pressure, I have to catch a flight, I have to catch a train, I've got a meeting to go to. Decoy, distraction, facial expressions like shock and anger. Take it or leave it, very common in German business culture. Deliberate chaos, very common in Latin culture. Silence, very common in Scandinavian culture and in Asian culture. Good cop, bad cop. So if you're negotiating with two people and one is a really nice guy and the other one is a bit of an asshole, it's usually a tactic. Be prepared for it. Cherry picking. If your counterparty is trying to pick the best parts of the deal but push back on the parts that are in your favor, watch out for that. And then finally, using a timeout. That cannot actually often be a good tactic if you're getting to a stalemate and you just want to have a little bit of breathing space to figure out where to go from here. So what can you take away from this? And I left the doner kebab as a takeaway because it's one of the things that I miss the most from Germany. Be aware of your position and work within it. If you're powerful, don't manipulate people. If you're weak, as weak as you think you are, approach it with confidence. Your self-confidence come across to them as arrogance, because that's a surefire way that you're going to upset the person that you're negotiating with. Stay on course, make notes, don't let them sidetrack you. Ask them what's important. Don't get pulled off piece by manipulation. And if you're not going to get your best case scenario, make sure that you at least get something that you can live with. And if they're proposing terms to you that are so unacceptable that you just don't want to accept it, then you need to have a plan B or a BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. So as you can say, thanks, but no thanks, and politely walk away from the discussion. If you want to learn a little bit more about negotiation, these are a few resources. I believe that Johannes and the Nomadbase team are going to share these slides, at least to the premium members, so you'll be able to get this reading list as a good basic introduction to some negotiation books and a podcast here as well. Finally, teaching negotiation to nomads isn't my core business, but it's something that I would really, really like to do, because I enjoy allowing the small guy to feel more confident and to gain skills in negotiation. And I see so many posts in Facebook groups around nomads and freelancers and small businesses who have been treated badly by their clients. And most of these situations are avoidable. So aside from what I do, working with corporate clients, I want to run a beta program offering group coaching to nomads on negotiation. This will be a 3-week program. It will be a live program that I will teach live via Zoom or via StreamYard or an online platform. 2 sessions will be more of a theory type session. And then the final hour session will be a role play where I will give you a card as either a buyer or a seller, and you can go away and negotiate with each other in small groups and get some negotiation practice. This is all completely free because it's a beta test, and I want to get some feedback on how I conduct it and get some thoughts and ideas from the beta testers around how I can improve it. So to get free access, all I'm asking for in return is a 15-minute Zoom call at the end of the training. And if you've enjoyed it, to give me a testimonial that I can use on my website. So go to nomadnegotiation.com, just sign up with your name and email address. And if I do get enough people sign up, then I will be in touch to discuss the next steps. And I really look forward to being able to help you. Thank you very, very much. And with that, I will click out of that and stop sharing and take any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, James, for this super valuable information, I think, for all of us. And I actually, we are running out of time, but I do have a question for you that came to my mind. What do you think, like, negotiation currently in these times when we need to do it like virtually most of the time, and like as nomads we usually do it virtually? Do you think it's easier, it's harder? Because you were mentioning like body language, how important it is. So what is your opinion regarding that?
Yeah, it's a great question, Dory. So if you're meeting someone for the first time virtually, then it's definitely tougher than if you've had a previous chance to negotiate with them face to face, or if you've had a long-standing business relationship with them before. That's absolutely 100%. The biggest tip that I would give you here is, especially if people are maybe reliant on freelancer platforms for getting clients, is instead of having to negotiate there through the chat app or through the direct messaging app, try and get your potential client onto a Zoom call. Because number one, you'll be able to tell through their mannerisms and through the way that they talk to you and the way that they react and hold themselves, whether you think they're going to be a reliable client or not. And secondly, it gives you the chance to use your influence and persuasion skills and your professionalism to really sort of shine through. If you're offering a higher level service and they're thinking of maybe going with a cheap solution in a low cost country, then if you're dressed smart, if you have good lighting, if you're prepared and you convey that degree of professionalism, it's hard as a nomad if you're trying to charge 50-60 euro an hour and you've got guys in India charging 10. It's hard to push through that. So I would absolutely recommend, if you're going to be negotiating remotely, to try and get someone onto a face-to-face meeting, because most of negotiation is body language and rapport, and business is all about people doing business with people, no matter how big the company is that you're negotiating with. Yeah,
thank you for that. Yeah, it's also, and the other challenge is that if like the internet connection is not that good, and like it's cutting off and in the middle of a serious negotiation process, that can be awkward. Yes, but
it can, but we've all had it happen, right? I mean, I've been presenting live and I've had internet cut out before it happens, but it's just a potential danger that we have to live with right now. It's a part of doing business in the world that we live in now.
Yeah. And any tips, because you mentioned like just the last one, is any tips for like gender negotiations? So like for women negotiating with the more experienced men, I think this is the let's say the most common. When I think as a woman, and I can talk for all the other women, that we feel a little bit like threatened, because the whole society is based on that like men are like more, it's like better, or like they're in the pedestal, let's say.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's perhaps a little bit difficult as a guy to answer that, but I'll try. My biggest tip would be embrace your femininity, use it to your advantage, and by that I don't necessarily mean flirt in an indiscriminate way, but make your hair look nice, wear a little bit of makeup. Don't try and be more masculine than the men that you're negotiating against, because that's the absolute worst thing that you can do. And when you look at gender equality and gender pay gap, some Eastern European countries that have fairly macho culture, and where the roles of men and women in society are very, very different, often have very, very low gender pay gaps, and often have very, very high levels of women in leadership positions. When you look at countries like Bulgaria and Lithuania and Romania, have really, really high ratios of women in positions. And I think that's part of that is just because they're able to use their advantages, both emotionally and just physically, into the way that they negotiate and deal with business scenarios.
Yeah. Thank you. That can be like a nice ending. Thank you, James, again for this. Johannes.
Thank you, James. Yeah, I wanted to add one more thing. Just one quick thing. We are running a little bit late, so Anna, who's going to be speaking next, you can just take a little longer as well. That's no problem. I mean, it's not that we have a deadline or the venue is closing.
We all want to go to the pub.
Yeah, thanks so much, James. Also, thanks for sharing this offer. I think this is amazing for people to just try it out. I mean, you are super experienced with this topic, so whoever wants to join your course and this test run, this is always amazing. I can always recommend everyone to be first movers. Connect with you now about this. Also something that I should have learned a lot more about as well. And one thing I wanted to add there as well is I've also been often quite a little bit shy to negotiate, but I think that sometimes as nomads we need to treat these things as a game. And I mean, now we are planning our event in Cyprus, we are organizing venues and things there, and we need to negotiate a lot. And at one point we all need to do this, and we need to treat these things as a game and not like, oh, I want this cheaper or whatsoever.
And a lot of it's culture, right? Certainly in German culture and British culture to some extent as well, we think of a price as being take it or leave it. I think in German culture is that more rigid, but then I think on the other hand, Germans are much less concerned about offending people, where the British are much more this stiff upper lip and don't want to offend people. So I think a lot of it is cultural for sure. And you go to the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul and you see how confidently they negotiate. It's cultural.
Yeah,
much of it is.
That's very true, and especially for us as nomads, sometimes we feel offended, right? If someone comes across like this, and we don't even think about that maybe this is part of the Hungarian culture or wherever we are from, and even though they are very good friends of ours, then we take things personally. But it's just really the way how we treat these things. Thank you so much, James.
Yeah.
Thank you, Johannes. Just one last thing. If anyone does have any problems signing up, just DM me on LinkedIn. I knocked up that website this week in a few hours, one evening, just to have a sign-up page. So reach out to me in case you have any issues. Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I'm
you,
going
James.
We are going to leave now, and Dori will introduce Anna.
Yes. Thanks.
Okay.
It was super valuable. And now basically we're gonna have another talk which is kind of connected, because I already started introducing like virtual meetings, and there's so many things that can go wrong and we can make different mistakes. And now that the whole world changed and basically all the personal meetings have been paused or like canceled in the last year or so, now we need to do everything virtually. So Anna Maria will share the tips on what to do and what to avoid when we are interacting online. So welcome, Anna Maria. And yes, you're muted. Great. So the
Hi,
stage
Dory.
is yours. And tell us all about what we should do and what are the mistakes that we should try to avoid in the future.
So hi, Dory. Hi, all. Thanks for joining. Indeed, it is connected to James' talk, and they are like things that are interconnected. Like when James mentioned, for instance, like culture. Of course, like negotiation is a big part of communication. So you can't be like good negotiator if you are not a good communicator first, right? So I have like some slides to share with you. So let's start with this.
Okay, we can see it. We can see the slides now. I'm going to leave,
okay.
and Dory as well. The stage is yours. Thank you
Yes,
for being
it's
here,
all
Anna.
yours.
Now I cannot see your slides. So it was just there, but now I cannot see them. Okay.
Okay, can we?
Yes, we can see them now. Yes.
Great. Yes, all set.
Okay, perfect. So let's start. And this presentation is about particularities of remote communication. And that basically means that we will try here to show what are the differences between like face-to-face communication, offline communication that we were used, and remote communication. So often people, like when they started working remotely, for instance, before like because COVID happened, or they were like kind of forced to start working remotely, but they were not doing that before, they may not realize that indeed there are like some differences, and that there are like special skills or special kind of approach, I would say, that should be taken when we are communicating remotely. And we are gonna like here highlight the most important things. And so this is like one sentence about remote communication, and it's like easy to connect, but difficult to stay connected. Right? And that basically means that, of course, it's like we have so many different channels to communicate, to start, like to reach to someone. But at the same time, it's to build that trust, to build that rapport, to build that connection, like with the new clients or with, for instance, a new employee. Or with the partner, it's more difficult because you don't have that face-to-face communication. Like, for instance, for me, I work remotely for a long time, indeed, but there was still this element, like before COVID, maybe like 5%, like usually when I would meet like first client, first time, we would still go and meet in person, right? And then, of course, we would work remotely. But now, basically, it's like 100% remotely. And that first meeting, I would say, that would happen in real life, now is on us to build that rapport online. And so this is a bit about me. So I'm Polish, but I've been living like abroad for 15 years by now. So basically, I never really like worked in Poland. I always worked in international scenarios with foreigners. I'm a full-time nomad since 3 years. But my work, in fact, was like always remote, because I work with the clients that were in different countries on different continents, and the essence was always remote, even like 10 years ago when I would still go to the office to do that remote job. So yes, I speak like 6 languages, studied business management, and my professional background, like most of this, is in project management and business development. So currently I work in IT area, but it's always revolving about project management and business development for my clients. And I also do like cross-cultural consulting, which is a little bit connected to what Dory and James were saying before, so that in negotiations, indeed, it's important to know the culture first, especially like when it's a big stake. And I do the consulting like for the companies that were basically like local business, and now they would like to open the business, let's say in Italy or Spain or other country, and they do need to study a little bit the culture if the culture is different to make it successful. And yeah, let's start with like why I want to talk about this topic and why is this important. So you can see here like two graphics that I choose for you, and we can see like this is about the biggest challenges of working from home. And on the left, we have like the main challenge is harder to collaborate with coworkers. This is like 33%. And on the second graphic with the circle, we again have like collaboration and communication. Now it's 20%, but it's always like the main preoccupation, the main struggle that people have when they start working remotely. And then, of course, we have like other challenges. We have long lines, not being able to unplug, distractions, different time zones, and of course, like technical issue. But I would say that few of these things, in fact, they are connected. For instance, for me, like communication is interconnected with long lines, okay? Because the worse you feel like as a communicator, the bigger is the problem, the less connected you are, the more lonely you are gonna feel. So they kind of go together. And then, of course, as a nomad, so you have to join like nomad communities, you have to join events like the one we have in Cyprus. So that will help, but it is important to work on our communication skills, and that will actually help us with other things as well in remote work. And we have different communication channels nowadays. So we have like calls, virtual meetings, emails, Slacks, Discords, Teams, like so many of them, right? But we also have like shared points. We have guides, videos, images, project management tools. They are also channels of communication. And the differences like between them, it's like some of them happen in real life, while others are not synchronized. So email is not synchronized, right? Like you write the email, maybe you get the reply tomorrow, maybe you get the reply in 3 days, right? Or maybe in 1 hour, but you can't know. And of course, like Slack or Teams, they are in real life communication channels. So it's easier to reach out. And we are gonna talk a little bit further when to use which channel, because we have like really lots of options nowadays. But we often lack like the understanding which channel is the right one for our purposes, for the type of message we have, or for the situation, right, that we are in. And of course, like the biggest advantages of remote communication, so it's like major flexibility. So we have all these options available for us. We can choose. Actually, it's remote communication make like the push of remote work available, because without the technology, without the tools, we could like the idea, but we were not able to take it on the next level. The convenience, so you can write like to the colleagues that work in different time zone, and you can do that during your time zone, but they will like check that message during their time zone. And that's something that also technology help us to do. Like before, if we didn't have that, we just had to do the call or meet that person or just write the email and wait, but we didn't have that tools that we have right now to communicate with them in alternative ways. And of course, they are like easy to use. So Teams, Zoom, there is really like everybody, even without like technology background, can use them in an easy way. But at the same time, like this remote communication, there are also like disadvantages. So one of the biggest is actually distractions. So everybody like works now with or Teams or Slack and different like this in real life communicators. And the challenge here is like often you are doing your work and perhaps you need to concentrate a little bit, but you are receiving all the time like notifications that your clients or potential clients or coworkers send you messages, and you not always know how important this could be. So perhaps you check just to be sure that was not something super urgent. But that already takes you out of that focus, right? Out of that concentration. And for some jobs, that really affects the productivity. It's also difficult to stay in touch. So we as humans, we still require like to see each other at least sometimes, to have like that human element, communication, like to feel a little bit connected. And when we communicate a lot over like communicators, Teams or Discord or Slack or through emails, we become like more disconnected from the clients, from our coworkers, from our partners or suppliers. And sometimes what happens is like everybody drifts a little bit in different directions. So maintaining, I would say, like a long-term successful relationship, professional relationship with the client or with coworkers or with the partner, I see it a little bit more challenging when there is never this in real life element, like a face-to-face meeting. And even for remote business, that's why like those remote companies try to do this like 1 or at least 2 times meeting in real life, because that's really what keeps people together for some time. And even if it sometimes means that you have to fly like to other continents, but it's still important. It's really hard to achieve that level of connection like online. And of course, we have like these technical difficulties. So this is really, I'm working like currently for IT client. And despite that, so I would say that when you have like lots of meetings, it just happens, and you have to be just like prepared to act accordingly and react fast. And then also don't get like too stressed about that or completely lose, like I would say, your narrative just because you couldn't hear someone for a moment or they couldn't hear you. You just have to continue, because these things like still at the current level of the development of technology and with the tools that we still have, they still happen. And so we have to take it. And yeah, so this is the questions like to all of you that are looking at it. So how many times have you been in this situation? Have you been in this situation? This is like a scenario, right? Should I call you, or should we quickly solve this with 200 messages? And this is a little bit like a pass to the part that I want to talk more regarding which communication channel you should use according to which scenario and which situation. And on this slide, what I have is like the current scenario in virtual communication, the moment where we are right now. And you can see like these graphics that for me like really illustrate the reality of our world and how do remote workers communicate, right? And so 88% is email. So it's huge. It's like 90% almost, it's email. And then each of them, basically, this is like regular communication every day. So this is Slack, Teams, so this message instant communication. And then the third part use video conferencing on a daily basis. And what happens here is like people often replicate the usual of working in an office over Slack or over email. So then you receive like really, really lots of emails, lots of messages. And I heard like all the time from people that they receive more emails that they can handle, and that they have too many messages that constantly distract them from doing their actual work. And what I think that this is happening because many people like they jump into that remote work, they got the tools, often they got like different tools, and they have like more tools than they really need, but they lack like the training, and the companies lack like the proper communication policy, I would say, about how to use those channels. And that means like not using mainly that much plain text like emails and message, but introducing other channels of communication, and of course adapting your message, what you want really to convey, to prepare, and adapting its situation to the right channel of communication. Then of course, like if we don't use like different channels of communication and we are always working from home, so we then start to feel like a bit disconnected because it's too many emails. Emails are not that productive. It's difficult to explain a complex subject over the email. It's difficult to make a client pay over the email. And we need to try to reach like more balanced communication. And that's especially important for people that gonna do this remote work long term, because like 1 year, few months, probably you can do that even if that communication is not balanced. But for you not to get burnt out and for you to actually enjoy what you are doing and be productive, you really need to adapt the right communication channel to the message you are sending. And then, of course, like remote communication is part of a bigger topic, which is like generally communication skills. So most of the people, if not all, we can improve something in our communication, no matter how good we think we are. Usually we can improve something. So people in IT, technical people, usually they also have like big area there that can be improved. These are like a couple of examples that I got. This is about this in real time channel. So this is, for instance, Slack channel, and this we have like video conferences, right? This is also channel in real life because they happen at the same time. And so this is someone's schedule, and this is someone inbox. And this is again like example that we don't keep this communication balance. So too many meetings, right, keeps you not productive, because often the work doesn't really happen on the meeting. On the meeting, you are basically trying to align, but then you still have to do your work after the meeting. And that means that we should try to keep only the necessary meetings. There are situations that's really important to have that in-person meeting and put the camera on. But many meetings, we probably all agree, it could have been an email, or it could have been a video, or it could have been other channel of communication. And one of the major challenges, also like I would say differences between like the face-to-face communication and remote communication, because this presentation is about particularities. So for me, one of the biggest particularities is the fact that it's more difficult to keep people engaged. And this starts from the beginning. It's more difficult when you communicate virtually to get their attention, but it's also continue to be difficult to keep their attention. So it requires something more from you that you would be just doing when you were at the office right now. Like if we are in a meeting and we are all there in the same office, so even if you are not the presenter, you have to be listening, and you have basically to other participate, or at least be engaged. And what happens on virtual meetings, of course, like especially when people turns off the camera, so usually they write emails at the same time, they go to the kitchen to do a coffee, they, I don't know, check Facebook, and we don't have that great attention division skills as we think, and it's really hard to retain the information or to make that meeting productive if you are doing something else at the same time. And this is happening, and the challenge is usually on the side of the person that's a presenter in this scenario, and the person that really needs the meeting be interactive and productive, that really needs the audience to participate, right? And one of the things we can do is to use more visuals to get that effects. Here, for instance, we have like this graphic. So almost 70% of people works better if the instructions are made using images or the same effects with videos. And visuals, it would be like any kind of screenshots, screencast, or videos. Screencast is just like the screen recording. And if I would ask like someone what I don't know, they think immediately when they talk about virtual communication. So most people probably say emails, video conferences, but probably few of us would say videos, right? Because videos, we don't think about them as a form of virtual communication, at least not immediately. We would need to give it a thought, and then probably we agree that in fact it's a way to communicate virtually, because you can record yourself and then you send that video and you share that information, and that can, the same information that was shared on the meeting or you could have tried to explain in email can be also expressed that way. And actually people are more engaged and more eager to watch videos than to read like the long instructions or to read long emails. And with visuals, we also save time, because it's really easier to digest, it's easier to watch a video than to read long instructions. So everybody gets the same experience. And of course, great things that you do just video just once, and then you can share them with multiple people. That's effective. Emails. So let's talk a little bit about emails. I put here like the clarity as the most important thing, and really this can't be like overestimated. Most people like really have too many emails, and the fact is we also perhaps don't know how to write the good emails, how to get understood, and how to express ourselves. And this is normal, because communication is something that you really need to train a lot, and even when you think you are good, probably you can still improve. And the number one of the problems I see in project management, when there is lots of going on, that the people are not clear enough with their emails. And I also do like trainings about business processes in pharma industry, and I always like put special attention to this clarity. And then I always hear like very often that concern or that complaint, I would say like point of view, but Anna, clarity is subjective. And so I don't really agree with that, okay? Because clarity is objective. It's like lack of clarity is subjective. But why we are doing that? Because we basically are writing the emails from our perspective. We are seeing that, we are having that experience. We don't really give it much thought, and we express it as it is for other person. But what is really necessary to make the email like effective tool is to stop for a few seconds and think from that person perspective. And in emails, there really needs to be like three main things. They have to be there, and everything else is actually often unnecessary. So if you can express yourself in a few sentences, that's perfect. It shouldn't be like a half page or 1 page, because like people are really overloaded. People will receive too many emails, and the longer it's gonna be, the less likely you're gonna receive a faster reply. And these three main parts that I think should be there is like people need to understand who you are. That's super important. If that's a new person, you have to introduce yourself. If it's like potential client or I don't know, new employee or a partner, it has to be there. If they understood, then you can skip that part. But the second part, which seems like super obvious, but often it's not there, is like the clear expression why you are writing that person. And I would invite like everybody to make it actually explicit. Like, I'm writing you because I need your advice. I'm writing you because I'm sharing some documents with you. I'm writing you because I need some context that you have. Because I've been receiving like lots of emails when actually I'm reading. There is a lot of information. And at the end, like, okay, but what that person actually wants from me? And this is something that should ring a bell in a communication, because that's an example of poor communication. So there can be like doubts, I would say. Of course, like more things can appear as we are having the conversation. But if I wrote the email to someone and they replied me, for instance, and they are asking me, okay, Anna, so what are the next steps? then I have failed like the basic objective of the email, because the main goal was to ask for something, or to communicate something, or to tell that person something. And that's like above everything. And if I receive the email, if it's first email and I was not in contact with that person, that of course is okay. They may not have the background. But if I was the one contacting them, and as a reply, I receive like, what is the next step? So I totally failed on this email, because that's like the main point, the most clear thing that you should have there. And whatever else is just an addition. What are the next steps? What you're really trying to reach? And the third thing would be like, we have to think a little bit if that person has everything to do what we are requesting them to do. And sometimes it's not us. If we are requesting them to pay, do they have like the payment details, right? Do they know like all the possible options they have? Do they know how to contact? If you are sending him to talk with someone else, do they have that person contact? That kind of thing. Sometimes we don't think about that. And that often produce like long this back and forward email chain messages, when people just go back to us asking this question that we should have already clarified in our first message if we have stopped for a while and thought about that. So this is like a super important part. And yeah, so simplicity, of course, like being kind and straight to the point. If you can make that in a few sentences, that's it. If you cannot make it in a few sentences, that's another topic. And actually, it often means that it should be a call, because that's one of the differences. Now we will pass to the meetings. Like, how do you decide if you should send an email or you should organize the meeting? So emails usually used to simple communication when there are not so many doubts, when there are not ongoing problems, when for the collaboration that was already established. So it's not so good to start with the email if that's, for instance, potential client. Then you should arrange the call, right? As James also mentioned. If there is a problem with a potential client or partner or supplier, that's also not the moment to use the email or like Slack or whatever communicator, because it's gonna be hard to first to understand and then to solve. And it like in that joke, it will take like 200 messages. So when things are more complicated, you should get on the call. So once we get on the call, so we have to do like a little bit of small talk. And I know that many of us, like when we started working remotely, especially like people that are introverted, they don't like small talk. And many people think that, okay, in office you had to do that, and on the meeting you can skip that part, it's not necessary. But we are still people. And if someone doesn't like the small talk, so I would only like recommend to remind that people are still people, even if they're working remotely. And usually before they want to do business with you, they need a little bit to evaluate, I would say, your capacity to do that, and if they can trust you. And for that, it's often necessary to connect and to spend that little bit at least and show some interest in them. And so, yeah, I don't like when people like just don't know what to say. So it's like, what's the weather in Lisbon, or what's the weather in Barcelona? So, you know, there's nothing bad about this, but you can do better than that. Because imagine that this is like the first meeting with the potential client or new partner, and the first thing you are doing, you're just showing like lack of imagination, I would say. And also you are showing that your communication skills are not so great. So usually people that are good communication, they don't start communication. So what's the weather then in Panama or in Germany, you know? And I also don't recommend, like really lots of people do that nowadays, that they start conversation about, so how is the pandemic situation? So this, of course, the goal is like to feel like we are all connected over this topic because it's everywhere, and we like feel solidarity for certain countries and so on. But sometimes it can backfire because you don't really know what is that person perspective, right? And this topic become like very controversial. So maybe they think like the opposite of what you think. And this is like really that kind of topic, like religion or politics right now. This is not the best. Like what to say instead, because people will say, okay, so what should I say? So if you are, for instance, talking with the clients that are in different countries or in different places, so what you can do, this of course comes back to the preparation, because if you haven't done that before, then you will not know. But spend like some minutes to check, okay, so like local events in Spain or what's going on in Spain. And then when you, for instance, talk like to the Spanish client or the colleague that's in Spain, then you can actually refer to that. Also, I heard that, I don't know, the football team win or didn't win, or I heard that you are having like some national holiday or something, and that's like way better to start the conversation. It's not so, I would say, predictable, and it also shows the other person that you expressed some interest in them. And of course, like for native speaker, I think this is important because foreigners, we often have these calls in English. But I have really met that lots of people, I would say they do speak English on a conversational level. So of course they can work in English, but they don't feel like completely fluent or I would say 100% confident. So you have to account for that. And this is important, like not use, let's say, slang that's perhaps known only in your country, or it's like maybe American slang, and that foreigners may not know, not to use any abbreviation that are not obvious for everybody on the call. And often it's not that obvious as you think. So accent, so you cannot eliminate it, and you shouldn't, but you should strive to be understood and to speak clearly and pronounce well. Because what I notice often that people, when they don't feel like 100% secure, they will not make questions, okay? But they will not let you know, sorry, I didn't understand you, or sorry, your accent is difficult to understand. They will not admit that. They will just not make question. And that's a problem in the virtual meetings, right? Because you want to get understood. Maybe it's a potential client, or maybe it's a potential partner. So like make sure on your part that it's super clear. And yeah, so basically like the takeaway. So use visuals to get attention. Don't write so much emails. Don't write so many messages. Try to make a video. Try to organize a call when it's really necessary. Then think about empathy and trust building. So this part is especially important now if we don't have like even remote chance for one meeting with the client, with the partner or potential employee. So you will have to show a little bit more, I would say, that empathy, and you would have to invest a little bit in trust building online. But it doesn't mean it can be skipped just because we can't meet in person. Then create a communication policy. So this is basically, if, for instance, you have any employees or you work with more people, it's important to establish that. And for people that may have been in that for longer, they may just know what works better, which channels work better for communicating which kind of messages. And that communication policy just makes sense to establish perhaps for people that are newer to remote work, or maybe like your employees, and setting like some rules, what things we communicate like over chat, what things we communicate in project management tools. And when we do organize a call, it's important to put some rules, right? And it's important to make that communication also like balanced and diverse. And then, of course, match the message to the right channel. So if it's something that can be written in a few sentences, email is fine. If you need like something urgent, usually you can call a person, you can leave a message on Teams or Slack. If it's more official, if it's a new client, if it's onboarding, it makes sense to organize the call as a first contact. For the meetings, very important thing, so have an agenda, because random meetings, they are not very productive. Not everybody can express themselves. We don't know how much they will, how much time they will take. So if you are receiving the emails and they are not agenda for the meetings, because that happens sometimes for me, like people invite me for meetings and there is like only a title which doesn't say much to me and I don't know what we are gonna talk about. So I do always request agenda, because sometimes happens that I need to prepare for that meeting, but to prepare I need to know what we are gonna talk about, right? Sometimes the meetings are just like the team talk, and perhaps there is not much preparation because that's something that you already know, but you still need to know that in advance in case that you need to prepare or need to check something or need to invite someone else on that call. Otherwise, we are having calls, we are losing time, but they are not productive. And if you are the one to organize a meeting, always make sure that you put the agenda. And it doesn't really have to be like very long and sophisticated, just like 3 points. I want to talk about this and I have these doubts, and that's it. And that's enough like for people to make the time and prepare for that. And last but not least, like simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And I think this is always important, but in remote communication, I always like highlight that clarity and simplicity and being more to the point is more important for all the things that we talked about. Like it's more difficult to engage people, to keep their attention. There is more confusion. People feel more disconnected. So your message has to be clearer and they have to really get to the people. And like with everything, you have to first to know a little bit, try to learn. Then it's of course always great to observe how people that have been doing that for a longer are doing. Like me, for instance, I have learned a lot from some colleagues that when I was just young and I work with really great professionals in sales, and I would just like observe what they do in a difficult situation, how they handle difficult clients. And then I would just start apply the same principles. And then you will realize that often for perhaps like more technical people, that seems like a very difficult area, but indeed there are also rules. It's not that random and unpredicted. So if you follow that rules, it starts to be like more productive. There start to be like less misunderstanding. You are faster and closing the deals. Projects are more successful. And of course, like you have to be aware that it will take some time. So you will not become like a great communicator in a week or in a month. It takes years, but you are gradually getting better and better. And that's it. So if someone wants to talk a little bit more about that, or have some doubts, or I didn't cover something that you would like to talk, so of course these are like my contact details. You are welcome to contact me. This is like very broad topic. They are like the whole masters about communication and remote communication. So of course it can be like taken much more in detail if you have more time.
Some questions, then they can just contact you. It was super valuable. Thank you so much for all the tips and all the knowledge that you just provided for us. It was super useful. Just one question, like how do you stick to only one channel of communication? When I'm saying, because there's Slack, there's Messenger, there's WhatsApp, and like with remote teams, I think this can be a challenge.
Yes, and it often is. I think that's why like making some rules in the beginning, especially when you work with more people, like what channels of communication we use for what purpose is important. And also because perhaps you check like your Teams or your Slack more often than you maybe check like project management tool or emails, right? And then it has to be clear for everybody that for urgent thing, they have to contact you on that channel that you check more often. So like setting like some rules really helps, because if everybody use different channels, so you can miss on important information. Okay, or you perhaps see that when it's too late, right?
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for this. And now I'm going to hand it over to Johannes for our last talk.
Yes, I would actually like to have one day one talk about only writing emails, right? I mean, there's so much we have to learn about, doing the right, communicating the right thing at the right time. And there was so much value in your talk. Thanks so much for sharing this with us. And I think everyone knows now who to talk to if we're unsure about all our communication hassles and which channel to use. These things are just getting more and more complicated, right?
They are.
We are. I mean, I don't know about where to check on Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Slack, everything. It gets complicated, so it's more and more important to know how we use which channel. Thank you so much, Anna. And
Thank you both.
yeah, thanks for being here. And I will now start to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is going to be Ruben, and he will talk about building healthy routines and and stick to them inside the location independent lifestyle. Ruben, there's a little bit of noise in the background. Can we do something about it, or a little
I can check.
yeah.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, we can hear you better now. Yes.
Okay, great.
So Ruben will talk. It's going to be our last talk today. Last, but also very, very important. And this is actually something that I feel I've been struggling with a lot. And it took me even 2 years to realize this. Building habits, especially when you travel a lot, is probably one of the hardest things. And it's also something that I'm still struggling with a lot. So I'm actually really looking forward to your talk, what you have to share with us. Yeah, for those of you who are just starting out as nomads, basically keeping, when you switch the location all the time, this can be very problematic. And especially when you have some routines like running or whatever. But I will see what you're going to tell us now, what will be the way, the direction, and really looking forward to your talk, Ruben. You have the screen. Are you going to share a slide, or
Yes.
are you going to talk? Okay.
Yes.
I don't see this yet, so once I see this, then I will leave here as well. Yes, I can see it now. Okay. Thank you so much for being here, Ruben. And now you can tune in, and we're looking forward.
All right. Thank you, Johannes, for the introduction. And a warm welcome from the darkness of Germany at the moment. So I'm really happy and delighted to speak to you today to share some knowledge, some advice that might be useful for you in your location-independent lifestyle. And so topic is how to build healthy routines and also stick to them in your location-independent lifestyle. What I want to start with is asking you guys. So you can text into the YouTube chat what are some routines you have, but also I would be interested in why do you fail to keep your healthy routines when you're traveling? And I will check my screen. I hope this works with the sound. I'll give you some time. And while you're sharing this, so when I'm talking about routines, as you see in those pictures, I'm talking about mindset, I'm talking about movement, and I'm talking about nutrition. And there are obviously lots of routines and habits we will talk about later that you can include into your lifestyle that basically make you more productive and let you lead a healthier life. I'll see if I can see some messages. All right. Eating healthy. Now I see. Eating healthy is one of the habits I fail at most. Okay. Make bed, journal, meditate, supplements. Okay. Great. There's more coming in. I will check the screen as we go. So as we get started, this will be of value for you if you can say yes to one of these 3 statements. First, and I guess that's true for you as well, you love to travel and you lead a location-independent lifestyle, or you desire to lead a location-independent lifestyle. Second, you want to stay healthy which most of us, I guess, want to be and want to stay healthy. And you tend to lose your usual routine on the road. So if you already have a routine, and I saw in the chat that you guys follow some routines already, I'll share some information about that. If you can answer yes to one of these questions, one of these statements, then you'll be right here, and I will cover you and I will give you some advice and share some experience. Okay, let's continue with your challenges. And I've been working remotely. I've been traveling, so I hear these challenges all over again. You might be able to relate to one of those. One of those challenges. Maybe you say, okay, I got to finish a project. I got a really, really important project, and I finish this first. And then when I finish it, I will go out and move. And then I will be back into my healthy routines. Or you say, as I saw in the chat as well, eating something really can be really difficult on the road. You say, I just eat something quickly next to my laptop while finishing this one project, maybe. Or already you say, and you have some pain, you say your back hurts, and yeah, maybe tomorrow I'll see if I find a gym around here, if I find my running shoes, if I can rent some running shoes, whatever, and I'll do this tomorrow. Maybe you can relate to these challenges. If you can, my promise to you and what you will learn today is, again, 3 things. I like 3 things. How do I build my own healthy routine, own healthy lifestyle routine? How do you build your own routine? If you don't have one, you will learn today how to build one. How do you actually make time for this routine? So even if you have a routine, how do you make time? How do you actually make sure that it's going to happen, that you practice this routine? And also, how do you stick to it wherever you are, wherever you are in the world? So it doesn't matter your location, you can always follow your routine. All right, let me quickly introduce myself a little bit. I'm Ruben. I have been working remotely for the last 4 years. In these 4 years and before, I have traveled to 35 countries, and my main background is in human performance and coaching. I'm a sports scientist, and I have coached with athletes. I have coached with, I call them everyday athletes as well, from the usual normal person to the performance athlete. I've been serving as a fitness coach for the German national football team. And during all these years, I have developed a large network of experts, especially in the health and performance industry. So these are some clients I've worked with. As I mentioned, I work with the everyday athlete, as I like to call it, you and me. I worked with professional athletes in football and other sports. I've been covering prevention. I've been covering treatment of injuries, basically making them, creating a high-performance routine, high-performance culture, and yeah, also to raise their levels of fitness, keep them ready for the game in football, for example, and yeah. So this is going to be our roadmap and what we will cover today. First of all, and this is also the first and foremost and most important pillar, is mindset. So really, how do you look at the topic of routines? Is that something really important to you? Is it of minor importance? Is it of a big importance? How can you relate to this topic in your life, and how can you make it valuable for yourself? And we're talking about these two words, habits and routines. I know they're being thrown around many times. You might have heard them while you're traveling. You might have watched some personal development courses, gone through these things. So we will clarify what is a habit, what is a routine, and how you can use it for your lifestyle. Then we have building your own routine. So even if you don't have a routine now, which is totally fine, and I'm telling you, all of us, we have a routine, we fall out of our routine. Same for me as well. These routines for me specifically, they really help me. I'm a air sign, so sometimes I'm floating around in the air, having many ideas, and these routines really help me to ground myself and help me to feel happy everywhere I am. Okay, so healthy travel hacks. Of course, you're going to get some examples. Most of these travel hacks, actually all of them I have tried, I have used, and I'm also, as you will notice and see in the end, I try to keep it simple. And and you can also just have inspiration for yourself and choose some of these healthy routines for yourself. Key takeaways, we're going to wrap up with that. And in the very end, I also have a surprise for you. So stay tuned till the end, and I will, you will see that surprise in the very end. All right, so mindset. This quote I really like. You can read for yourself. Of course, we as humans, sometimes we're really focused on getting further in our business, like really being an entrepreneur, start our own business, or doing very well in our job, doing very well in our families, in our everyday life. And sometimes and that's just human nature. Sometimes we forget about these routines that are really healthy for us, and to really, for example, to really limit your screen time, dedicate times. We'll go over these things. Basically what you do every day really makes a difference in your life and really helps you to live healthier, be more productive, have more focus, and in the end also have more balance in your life. So what I also love to start with my own clients is knowing my why. And the why is important for all kinds of things. It's important for your mindset, it's important for movement, it's important for nutrition. Why do you actually want to be healthy? Why do you want to have a healthy breakfast? Why do you want to be successful in business? All these things. So, and also know your why. Why do you want to create a routine for yourself, and how does that help you in your life? So sustainable success, that's what we all want, and it's created by little steps, just a step-by-step process. And this is why routines help us to cultivate these little things that add up in the end, and and bring us closer to our result. A mantra that I use as well, that you're welcome to use as well, is I keep my healthy routines wherever I am. So don't get distracted by these things. I'm really good at waking up early in the morning, at having a healthy breakfast, at all these things. When I'm at home or when I'm at a place where I feel at home, but don't limit yourself in that situation. So really open yourself to, okay, I'm the creator of my life. I can decide to keep these healthy routines, to build them, as we will learn later, and to also keep them in your life. Okay, so what is a habit? So a habit, we can say, is a activity, and it is an activity that we do regular and in the repeated way. So we do it over and over and over again. As we do it over and over again, it's mostly occurs subconsciously. So in the beginning, it might take some time. It might take a couple of tries, a couple of experimenting around. And you will notice that after some time, usually after a couple of days already, you will notice that you don't even think about this habit anymore. And it's just your nature, and it's just automatic. It's also, you can also call it a fixed way of thinking. It's a particular way how you do things, particular way of how you do things in your life. Previous repetition of a mental experience. So that is important as we have these motor skills, or we develop these motor skills. It's the same with movement. you train your body, you train your mind to do these exercises or to do these routines, these habits on a regular basis, and you don't even think about it, and it gets second nature. And yes, old habits. If you ask yourself, okay, how do I actually change my habits? I might have some habits like smoking. I might have some habits like maybe waking up very, very late. I might have habits that my breakfast is not so healthy. After a flight, I always feel very, very tired. What can I do? So it's hard to change old habits. What's more valuable for us is to create new habits. So you can decide, okay, this is a new habit, and we'll go through these things. You can decide which habit actually suits me, and you can do this over repetition and choose for yourself and create a new habit rather than fighting the old habit, as to say. Okay, as a habit is a particular activity, a routine is basically a set of habits. So a routine can be made up of 3 habits, can be made up of 5 habits, 10 habits. And as you know, and as you learn, these things are happening subconsciously, so you don't even think about it. So we do things in a particular order, sequence of action, and since a routine is made of different habits, then changing a routine is the best way to form new habits. As you've seen in the previous slide as well, we don't want to fight the old habits. We don't want to say, okay, I want to stop smoking. No, maybe I do something else in that same time while you would be smoking before, or you just change your breakfast, or you create something that's meaningful for you and stick to it. Once you become used to it, it becomes automatic. And the main benefit, and I can tell you that from my experience as well, it really, really helps you. Up here, it's much less work for your brain. So you don't think about these things. It's just, you do them. It becomes second nature, and it saves you so much time. If you follow these routines, and it makes life and our lives are mostly getting more complicated. With these routines, you can get back some control and make your life easier. It can also give you a sense of security. That's for myself as well. When I follow these routines, especially in the morning, I feel like, okay, these things really give me a sense of security. I feel happy. I feel I can be productive. I feel like more grounded in my own body. So you might ask yourself, okay, what are these healthy routines that Ruben is talking about all the time? And I'll give you a list. It's not a final list. It's not covering everything, but it gives you an idea of which things you could integrate into your life. And afterwards, we'll go through how to actually build them. So waking up in the morning at the same time would be one. Meditation is something I have used for many, many years now. Breathing exercises, it can be a glass of warm water, it can be a healthy breakfast. Or as well, it can be movement. I love to do my movement sessions in the morning just because they give me so much energy. They give me just the feeling of being in my body, the feeling of, okay, I have done my physical work for today. And I can now focus on the most important tasks that I want to do and want to work on that particular day. Times for work, movement, and fun. Yeah, that's also important to really dedicate those times. Staying hydrated. Outdoors time. Yeah, if you have the opportunity and you're traveling a lot, make some time, at least 30 minutes. Get outdoors, get some sunshine, and last but not least here, lots of sleep. I always say minimum of 8 hours. I love to sleep 9 hours, 10 hours, and it's really, really important to allow yourself the time to give your body the time to rest and to refresh and to start fresh into your new day. So seeing all these healthy routines, you might ask yourself, what is the process of actually building those routines? And I've been working with clients and overall as well for myself to see, okay, how do I build a new routine? How do I build a set of habits, as we talked about? So I share with you a 8-step process. You might not even need to do all these 8 steps, but I'm sure you can get inspired by these simple steps that you can use. So first of all, it's really important to reflect and ask yourself, what is really meaningful to me? So what do I want to achieve? What is like maybe a long-term goal? What is maybe a long-term goal in business? Maybe with your family, maybe you want to be a better mom, a better dad. Maybe you want to grow your business. Maybe you want to be more balanced. You have health problems. You want to get better in your health. You want to ease your back pain, for example. Then you would reflect, okay, why is this meaningful to me? Then you would choose a maximum of 3 habits. And that's something I really recommend you in the beginning. If you haven't had a regular routine yet, then I recommend you to start with just a few habits. And it can be as simple as waking up in the morning at the same time, meditate and have a glass of water. It can be as simple as that. Experiment, ask yourself again and feel into your body what gives me energy and what drains my energy. It also helps me a lot to write this down. What is the habit? What is the routine that I want to follow? And start with a morning routine. Start with something simple. As I said, it can be waking up at the same time, at the time that you want to be fresh, you want to be starting your day, and take your time to meditate and take your time for your glass of water. And then you can start into your day. Then dedicate a time in your calendar. Everything that's in your calendar, I use Google Calendar, it can be Apple Calendar, it can be some form of calendar. You can also use your notebook if you like that. Write it down at least one day before or have it in your calendar and put yourself the times. Put yourself the time, okay, for when do I want to wake up? What's the time when I meditate? What's the time I go out and move in the morning? What's the time I take a break from my work? What's the time I want to have dinner latest so I can stop watching on the screen and spend time with my family, with loved ones. Perceive your energy levels following the routine. This is something you don't have to think about. You will notice higher levels of energy, and if something doesn't suit you, you just don't follow it anymore. And maybe most important of all, and I can speak again from my own experience, really be compassionate with yourself. Don't beat yourself up only because you have not followed a specific routine on a particular day. Be compassionate and see the long-term vision. See like, okay, there might be like 1-2 days I haven't done this routine, but I can always go back and do this routine whenever I want to, whenever I choose to. Okay, healthy travel hacks. I'm gonna share some things, some hacks with you that I use in my personal life and that I also love to share with other people that lead location-independent lifestyles, that are always on the road. Of course, this past 1.5 years has been really challenging for all of us, and maybe you have been traveling as much anymore, or you might start to travel again this winter. So when it comes to flights, I love to book my flights in advance and to see, okay, what kind of time zone is it? What kind of do I have an early morning flight, afternoon flight, or evening flight? I look at the time, the local time at my destination, and I plan the flight ahead so I know, okay, when I will land into my destination, and I will spend the time, get used to the time in your new time zone, and then have a good night's sleep so you can be fresh the next day. What do I actually do while I'm flying or before the flight? It's really important to hydrate that day. So for me, it's really important, especially with the air coming out of the air conditioning and the different pressure of the air, it's really important that you keep your body hydrated, because you lose a lot of water while you're flying, especially on long-term flights. This really helps you, and you will see if you really drink lots of water. Best would be water without gas. Throughout your flight, you will see that you will feel much more relaxed and not as tired when you get to your destination. Also, I'm always amazed by when I have long-term flights, people sitting on the airplane for 2 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, maybe even longer, and they never get up. Maybe they get up once for the toilet. Some people don't get up at all to the toilet. I'm even wondering more, how can they sit so for such a long time on their butts? So what I really do is I move frequently. I get up, try to not bother my neighbor too much, but I get up a couple of times during a flight, and I do some easy stretching exercises, very easy. Do some side bends. I do some stretching my legs, front side, back side, and yeah, I move a little bit. I get some blood flow going, and then I sit down again. So for me, that really works, and also it helps to release your back pain. Otherwise, after such a long flight, you will notice some tension. So if you can, try to get up, move, and stretch. So when you get to your final destination, it might be an Airbnb, it might be one Airbnb that's as nice as this one. It might be a more like basic Airbnb. What I love to do is to really plan ahead again and structure myself. So for example, the next day I want to go to the gym, I want to go to the beach, I want to have a run, I want to have a healthy breakfast. So I make sure all groceries are done. I pack my bag already. I put it next to the door. I put my sports equipment in there. I find out if there's a gym around, what's the opening hours. I try to plan these things around. I use an app called Happy Cow for checking out to see where are really restaurants that offer healthy options, and I'll be really happy to share those things with you after the presentation as well. So really structure everything so you can be ready to start your routines and to have your healthy routines and start your day the right way. So I love the beach. I'm sure most of you guys, as you travel, you love the beach as well. It's easy when you're in a sunny country. You wake up in the morning, there's sunshine, there's blue skies, and I feel much more motivated to move when I'm next to the beach. I love to do run in the morning. I love to do my workouts on the beach. I love to watch the sunsets, maybe just have a walk on the beach. So that's something I really enjoy. And yes, so that's what you can do there. And then even more important, I'm now in Germany. That's my hometown. And I've been lucky with some nice weather the last couple of days, but many times that I'm here and visiting family and friends, there's lots of rain, there's clouds, there's maybe cold weather, there's a lot of more clothes that I put on to myself. But then still, it's your decision again to say, okay, no matter where I am and whenever, I can follow these routines. Again, prepare yourself, structure. Okay, where can you go out maybe for a walk in the morning? Do you have access to healthy foods? Do you have enough water at your place? And and follow your routine. Check your schedule. You put in your little time frame for your morning routine, so you can follow it whenever and wherever you are. Key takeaways from this is we covered habit and routine, whereas habit is a recurrent and often unconscious action. A routine is a set of habits. It's as simple as that. We are what we repeatedly do. Every little step adds up and brings you closer to your goals. Experiment with a routine based on your unique personality. It helps asking you those questions, knowing your why, reflecting what's really important to me. Start with a morning routine. Yeah? It's something that that you will get lots of inspiration. You've seen things that I do. My morning routine is really pretty simple as well. I also wake up. I wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning at the moment. I meditate at first. I have a glass of water with lemon and turmeric, warm water. I have a healthy breakfast, and then I will do my movement. So I have my schedule there, and in the morning I have my deep work block. In the afternoon, another deep work block, and I put my lunchtime and my afternoon time and my reading time in the evening, and also my bedtime into the calendar, and I try to follow it. Sometimes it works. Sometimes I'm also struggling with these things. But the more you do it, and and the easier you are on yourself, the more likely you are to actually keep those routines as well. So stick with whatever gives you energy, whatever works for you. Move, hydrate, and stretch during your flight. Try it out next time. Pre-select your destination and your home. So check at least, okay, are there gyms around? If you're somebody who loves to go to the gym, is there a running track around? Is there some nature around? What are the time zones? All these things, and prepare and adapt quickly to your new setting. Yeah, give yourself some time to adapt, and then get back to your usual routine as soon as possible. What really helps me as well is to surround myself with a healthy tribe. So make sure that when you're traveling and when you're working remotely, make sure you have some people around that also follow healthy routines, that go running every day, that maybe just reads every day, that maybe meditates, that follow some healthy routines, and you see those people actually have their shit together as well, and they want to be healthy and stay healthy. Okay, so my passion business, and this is what I'm offering you, all of you as well, is with Athlete of Life. We put you as the athlete of your own life in the center, and I work with you in all areas, as we've seen in the beginning: mindset, movement, and nutrition. And we work on strategies. We work on these things, and you get inspirations. You get some impulses from my side on the mindset part. You'll be able to work on yourself. You'll get a 100% personalized movement plan that fits your needs. It doesn't need to be a gym plan. It doesn't need to lift heavy weights. It doesn't need to be anything, but it's some kind of movement that assures that you, from movement, also bring movement into your life. And also nutrition. We look into your nutrition habits, and we tailor design a nutrition plan to you that also meets your needs in the mindset and in the movement area. So everything is together, and you only have one contact person. So you can use these things, and you get support wherever you are, whenever you need it, so you can become the best version of yourself. So as I promised in the beginning, this is my special offer for you. So for everybody who's watching this on YouTube live at the moment, or watching the recordings afterwards, I'll have 2 programs, and I'll give you, on each of these programs, I'll give you a 20% discount if you use the subject Startup Days. And these 2 programs are pretty simple as well. It's 21 days that we work on one specific area of your life: mindset, movement, or nutrition. And we really make sure that you're able to master this habit and this area in your life. And the 90-day program is for people that are really committed already and say, okay, I want all of these things together. I want a one-stop solution. I want mindset, movement, and nutrition. I want some impulses on my mindset. I want to work on my why. I want to work on all these things, to reflecting myself, to know why I do things. I want to have a movement plan that's 100% tailor-made for myself. And I also want to have a nutrition plan that matches my movement, my mindset, and that I can follow whenever I want and wherever I am. So just contact me, write an email to me, also ask me any questions that you might have from the talk. I'll be more than happy to answer all of them. And yeah, that's it from my side. And I'll be happy to have some questions from your side and open this up for all of you guys.
Thank you so much, Ruben. My first question would be, well, first of all, this was a really great talk. Again, something that I should have listened to before I started my nomadic journey. And I'm still, kind of struggling with this sometimes. And what I, really liked was the words that you said: create new habits instead of fighting old ones, right? Like, I guess sometimes if we just create something new, or if we stop one habit, sometimes the problem is that, we need to have something else that we do instead or whatsoever. So thanks so much. This was really, really good. And I wanted to ask you, how did you change your own habits over time?
Very good question. So so this 8-step process that you
Like,
saw.
how did you start with, what was maybe your first habit, or like maybe you can talk a little bit about this, how these changed, or if you're still changing your habits even now.
Yes. So of course, I'm also experimenting, and I'll see, okay, what kind of things, what do I really want in life? What are my long-term goals? And I check, okay, what kind of habits, what kind of routines bring me closer to that. So I also do that. I create a new one. I don't really fight old ones. For example, I'm somebody who likes to sleep in a little later. So I give myself some time, and I progressively add up. Sometimes maybe I want to wake up at 6 a.m. Sometimes it's 7 a.m. Sometimes it's only 8 a.m. And so I put these into my calendar, and I write it down as I mentioned in the process, and I try to do it, and I try to be compassionate with myself. So even though I feel tired maybe one day, and one thing, if you're self-employed and you have the mornings for you, or you usually love to keep my mornings, is you can really be compassionate to yourself, and you say, okay, the mornings are for me, and it doesn't matter if it's just like maybe half an hour later that you wake up, or that you have your meditation, or that you have your healthy breakfast. It's just important that you do it. You do some of it over a certain period of time, over a longer period of time.
Dori? Dori has her mic muted, so we don't hear so much.
Okay, now it's okay. So what I was thinking is that I could talk to this topic with you, Ruben, for hours and hours. And the one thing that for me that came to as a question, that I have some really useful or like good habits that you also mentioned, like the meditation, the morning movement, but what I face as a struggle nowadays is that sometimes in the morning you want to pack all of this, and then you realize, like, oh, by the time you get to work, it's already like 10, 11, because you just want to do all of these good habits in the morning. So do you have any solution for that?
Yeah. So what I would suggest is that if you create a new routine, a new set of habits, do this at some days that you're free. So don't do it at maybe a weekday that you have already 3 or 4 meetings, and you have you have a really fixed schedule, and it starts early in the morning. So you don't put yourself on too much pressure. Maybe start it on a Saturday, start it on a Sunday, start it when you're on holidays, and also don't overload yourself. So just put maybe 1 or 2 of them. So if for you have you want to put too many things in, ask yourself from that list, what is really important to me? So what are the things that I can really follow over a couple of weeks, maybe over a couple of months, maybe over a year? And just choose the most important ones for you.
Okay. Thank you for that. And thank you for the whole talk. It was super useful. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Ruben. We need to talk about this more when we meet in Cyprus soon.
Yeah, we were. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So basically, this is the end of our first day, and we have one more day coming up tomorrow, where we have great speakers speaking to us from the Amazon, from Mexico, from different parts of the world, and I can highly recommend for everyone to tune in tomorrow when we start at the same time. And this was our first day. Thank you everyone for tuning in here, and we hope you got a lot of value of this. We hope you make some notes. You take these things serious. We wanted to bring just some of very, very many things that we actually need to cover if we are starting the Nomad life. We wanted to bring this a little bit closer to you, and in fact, there's so much to learn. So we could probably run 20 conferences around this, but we'll do things step by step. So we hope you enjoyed this today. Thank you to all the speakers who are taking part. We will also add in the YouTube description of this conference day your websites and the things that you've mentioned here in this talk. And I hope to see many of you tomorrow. And that's the thing for today, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here, Ruben. Thank you, Dory. And
thank you, guys.
Yeah, I also wanted to thank all the speakers who participated today, and everyone who was watching, and make sure to come back tomorrow. And one suggestion is we heard a lot of good tips, and I think the very important thing is that we actually start to do them and put them in action. So not just, as Johannes said, it's important to make the notes, but it's more important to actually start doing it. So even just pick one habit. If now I pick Ruben as one of the examples, and just really start doing it.
Just one takeaway from this conference can already be a lot of value on doing this. But the most important thing is not just to listen, to actually do this. And so these are the things we are talking about today. Also, for those of you who want to learn a little bit more about Nomadbase, you can also check out our website. There's a lot of things we are actually planning and working on, and we have actually our first meetup in Cyprus, and we're going to Mexico, to many different places over the next month. We haven't really talked about this so much yet. We will do this more in the future, but for those who want to check out nomadbase.com, you can see a little bit there what we're actually doing as well. And this is everything for today. Great that you actually took the time, that you made the time to come here, and we would love to see you tomorrow, and hope you enjoyed this day. Thank you so much. And one question here was if we can have a break tomorrow in between. No, we cannot make breaks during the conference. That would basically stop this whole broadcast. But if you need to take a little break, you can actually just put pause, and then you're with 5 minutes behind us or something. Okay. So also any feedback, everything, just write here in comments. As we said, there's so much things we need to cover. Anna Maria also mentioned this, talking about, she talked so much about communication, and there's still a lot more to cover when we talk about cultures and different things. So we can't wait to share even more things with you in the future. But tomorrow, please make the time. This will be really, really awesome. I can promise you. Okay. Thank you, Ruben. Yes. Thank you, Dory. I will now.
Thank you, Johannes and Dory.
Put the pause button here, and then we'll talk more very soon. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you.
See you.